The fourth Republican presidential primary debate is brought to you by Americans for Prosperity, North Dakota.
All right, welcome to it. What is this, boys? Number 4 for us?
4, baby.
4?
Number 4.
Another, what do we want to call this, pre-game get-together skirmish?
So watch party. We've got another great audience out here joining us, and our panelists, the folks that are watching this debate and giving us their reaction in real time. That's going to be fun again, Jay. We got a special guest here in a couple of minutes.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. What, publisher of Forbes, North Dakota native?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, just a quick story about Rich Karlgaard. Rich is a North Dakota native, but a publisher at Forbes now, obviously. Has known Governor Doug Burgum for a lot of years and was one of the first individuals that said, this guy, don't take it from granted. He should run, and talked about his personal wealth and what he would bring in the way of. So I'm looking forward to getting his take on Doug obviously leaving the race, the governor, and also what's next for him. So we'll do that coming up, too.
Voices you hear, myself, Jay Thomas, along with Scott Hennen, host of What's on Your Mind, 8:30 to 11. And right there's the man, Steve Hallstrom, the Steve Hallstrom Show.
How can I be the man?
I'm
sitting in between the men.
No, we'll give you the man card for a while.
Okay, I like that.
We know a boss when we see one, don't we, Jay?
Well,
exactly.
Speaking of boss, Jay, how many times did you interview President Trump this week?
Yeah, you know what? I call foul on that. Can't you throw some love my way, Steve's way? Come on, buddy.
Seriously.
I'm listening. I had it. He's like,
Yeah, Scotty
I got a hold of Trump.
Yeah.
Really? So you have his personal cell?
Literally had 15 minutes notice for the interview. Could you do it now? Okay.
Steve, I don't even think we're worthy to be in this room, to tell you the truth.
Well, let's not get his head inflated too much here. But it was pretty cool. Yeah, and all joking aside, fun to have someone on your team that's got those kind of connections. And it was a lot of fun when, they had, obviously Kevin Kramer was talking about his endorsement of Trump, and Scott says, President Trump, you and I have had a chance to do this before. And he goes, oh, I know, Scotty. We've had a good time doing these interviews. So just like old buddies. So it sure was a lot of fun. And I see John Hoeven, speaking of kind of bringing the news cycle in a little bit today, John Hoeven now has endorsed President Trump as well. I imagine Kelly Armstrong will at some point here also. But Kevin Kramer got the party started on Monday.
Sure did. Yep.
There you go.
Pretty amazing.
What are we going to see tonight other than 4 people on the stage? I mean, let's be honest. Trump's got this. It's the
same drill. Everybody's maneuvering for the plan B. To be up there. I think Nikki Haley's gained a lot of steam since the last debate and is going to be one that probably has the most to lose tonight because she's sort of white hot, and obviously if I'm Ron DeSantis, I got to get it going, right? I got to get it going. Chris Christie will do the let's bash Trump as much as we possibly can and consolidate that group. And then Vivek will be the haymaker. He'll be throwing a haymaker here and there. That's my take. Steve, how about you?
Steve, did DeSantis gain anything with the Newsom? I haven't seen anything number-wise.
Well, yes and no. It was a good night for him, Jay. You and I both agreed on that. And he certainly, there was a lot of day after feedback that DeSantis helped his cause. Now, again, like you said, Jay, I think if we're honest about it, unless something very unforeseen happens, a health condition or whatever with President Trump, it's going to be his nomination. But it certainly helped DeSantis, and it's going to be interesting to see what he does with that momentum tonight. If he is a little more engaged early. I think he's just been late to the party in these debates so far. He's been really slow to get started, and then when he gets going, he's been better. So will that give him confidence to come out and make a stronger showing early on today? But will it really matter in the long run? Probably not.
Well, let me ask you two. I watched it last night. I had to. Trump on Hannity last night.
What do you mean you had to? It sounds like it was a painful experience. Like I had to go to the dentist.
He's on. I got to watch him, man.
Okay.
I was, as
Plus,
always.
do you know who was in his house with him most of the time?
Right. Yeah. He probably wanted to take a nap, and Alex made him.
Yeah, pretty much. Usually I'm outside watching some crime show or something, and all I hear is just my name getting hollered, turn this on now, turn it on. But I got to tell you, man, that guy, 76 years old? You've got Biden, who's 80, 81, looks like he's 100. Man, Trump is on top of it. He really is. There is no stumbling. I mean, he's got a plan in place. He knows where he wants to take the country. And, last night I was glad it was addressed because you got the lamestream media out there pushing that he's going to be a dictator and all this. And he was asked last night, I said, yeah, I'll be for one day, the day that I get in office, like every president is. And I'm going to shut that border down. I'm going to do, and he what he wants to do the first day is what a majority of Americans want. Even the ones that don't like Trump, maybe in public they'll disagree, but behind closed doors, they're all going, yes, we need it. We're on board.
Now, we know the media hates him, so what's been the headline of the day? Trump said he'd be a dictator.
Yep.
So is it wise for him to say that line? I know it's kind of throwaway fun. I wouldn't say that.
Why?
I'd say day one, I'm cleaning house. There's going to be, you've never seen anything like it. I wouldn't say I'm going to be a dictator for a day. It just scares people. I mean, not to mention the Constitution doesn't allow for a dictator in the United States of America. So it's obviously tongue-in-cheek, but people don't take it that way. Let's get our guest in here, should we?
Yeah, let's do it.
Rich Karlgaard is the publisher of Forbes magazine, a North Dakota native and someone that has been tracking the Burgum candidacy very closely and is obviously a friend of the governor's as well. Rich, nice to have you on the program. How are you?
It's great to be on. And let me throw my name into the people who are praising you for your Donald Trump interview the other day. It was really terrific. I remember you thought you were going to get 10 minutes and you ended up getting, 25? He's not going to do that unless he really respects the venue and the interviewer.
Yeah, thanks, Rich. It was fun. It was a fun interview. I think there's a good Trump and a bad Trump. And we had good Trump. He was just very, deferential to Kevin and appreciate this very much. And, and then there's the Trump who I think somebody whispers into his ear seconds before he goes on stage and says, call Ron DeSantis to sanctimonious and call Nikki Haley bird brain and, some of that stuff that he does on the bigger stage that sometimes comes back to bite him. But I thought, what do you think of the president's?
Yeah, that's the professional wrestling Trump, I think. Let's not forget that he was at one time a professional wrestling league moderator or entrepreneur. So I think he knows what he's doing. When you see both, it becomes clear that he's in entertainment mode, and it gets attention. That dictator line. I mean, that's what executive orders are. That's a president, who issues an executive order. Sounds pretty dictatorial to me. And he could have explained it away that way. I guess I'd more or less agree with you on that he should do that. But it was tongue in cheek. It's so obvious to anybody, with half a brain that's what he's doing.
That's why we love Forbes magazine. So let's talk a little bit about Governor Burgum. First of all, I know that we've talked to you for a while about that. You obviously were at the kickoff in Fargo at the Sanctuary Event Center and have been following this closely. How'd he do?
Well, I think there are two ways of looking at it. In terms of the strict ROI, the expenditure of his time and his money, he didn't get what he wanted in terms of making the debates. In terms of moving the needle on the poll numbers. I think the Trafalgar Iowa poll shows him at 3%, and he ranges between 1 and 5 in Iowa. And I know that he wanted to do better than that. On the other hand, I think he planted some really good seeds. My boss, Steve Forbes, is a close friend of Fox contributor Larry Kudlow and Stephen Moore. I call them the three amigos of supply side thinking. And Doug spoke to their group a couple of months ago, and I asked Steve, how did Doug come across? And he said, everybody was blown away. But then, but the question was, after Doug had left the room, I mean, they were blown away by his intelligence, his positions on things and so on. And they were a little perplexed that he was not really focusing on one or two things, but rather coming off, I think, as just a generally likable and competent pro-entrepreneurial conservative governor. And that's not enough to break through the noise of the national media today.
What do you think?
But he did plant everybody who met him at fundraisers in New Hampshire, in Iowa, in California, in New York, came away mightily impressed with him.
What's next for Doug Burgum, do you think?
Well, I have my own, your interview, he was sort of mentioned as a possible cabinet official in a Trump administration. I think that's plausible. I would really, the Republican National Committee really needs an overhaul. This Ronna McDaniel is just as incompetent can be. She's lost every election cycle she's been involved in since 2018. Every single one. The the Republicans have underperformed since 2018. She has to go. What the Republican National Committee needs is somebody who's really smart, somebody who's really competent as an executive, and somebody who can leapfrog on technology. The Republicans used to have technological advantages. I remember when Ronald Reagan won the 1980 election, Republicans had figured out and Democrats had not yet figured out the power of the then powerful technology, which was direct mail. Well, life has moved on considerably since then. In 2016, the Trump campaign had a technological advantage over the really dismal Hillary Clinton, just as Obama, had advantages over Mitt Romney. But somehow that was all tossed away, and now, all the insiders will tell you that the Democrats are just far, far ahead in terms of using AI and other technologies like that. You can say for nefarious purposes, but as Senator Kramer mentioned on your interview, it's really stupid for Republicans to imagine that it's somehow more patriotic to show up and vote on Election Day and that we can't harvest votes too. I mean, look, we got to get in the game. And so I think Doug is the head of the RNC, a really, like Haley Barbour was, a former governor of Mississippi, who was a very effective head of the RNC. That's what Doug could do. I don't hear that being mentioned. Maybe Doug has no interest, but I think that's where he could do the most good for the party.
Hey, Rich, this is Steve Hallstrom. Good to meet you, and it's been fun to have you on programs like this and when Doug made his announcement, so thank you for always being gracious with your time. My question for you refers to the process of winning the middle. Elections are won by the moderates, the independents, the people in the middle. What message does, whether it's Donald Trump or maybe one of these candidates here tonight, need to deliver to win some of those middle votes that's going to put the Republican over the top in 24?
Well, I think Doug Burgum had this great idea about this triangle that works together: the economy, energy, national security. They all work together. The weaker our domestic energy is, the more it is attacked by regulators, the weaker we are on national defense, and the weaker our economy is. So that is a winning combination. And I think you win a lot of swing states. You win states like Wisconsin. You certainly win Michigan. You can flip Pennsylvania with that kind of message. So, the problem was if Doug Burgum made one mistake, I think maybe his campaign had too many messages. And sometimes he was over here talking about schools, sometimes over there about the border. I think for a North Dakota governor to talk about the border, yeah, I appreciated his position, but he wasn't leading with the strength when he was talking about the border. That's something that Governor Abbott can talk about, I think, with more credibility, because he's right there on the border. With Doug Burgum, it's that holy trinity of the economy, energy, and national security that I think would have been, maybe he should have been a little more focused on that. But in any event, I think that's the winning message for the middle. You got to turn out your base. The base wants red meat. Trump certainly knows how to do that. But the middle, I think you're going for the pocketbook, and the idea that the old Reagan line, "Are you better off today than you were 4 years ago?"
Assess for us, if you would, the DeSantis campaign. I've been a supporter of Ron DeSantis. I like a lot of what he's done in Florida. He happens to match up with a lot of the things that I believe are important. But his campaign has never had that magic moment that really has helped him catch fire. What is lacking in the DeSantis campaign?
The television is not his friend. Sometimes people are good in some forms of media and not so good in others. He has not yet mastered being comfortable and confident, in front of a camera. Now, I live in California. I've lived my adult life in California. I think Governor Newsom is an abomination, and he told so many lies. And DeSantis should have punched him in the nose, but done it in a Reagan-like way. Remember Reagan and Mondale, there you go again. You call the guy out every time he's lying. You don't let somebody like Newsom get away with over-talking you the way he did. If you looked at the transcript, you would say, you would say that certainly Governor DeSantis won that debate handily on facts. But if you watched it, it wasn't clear. Their side, the Democrats think that they won. The Republicans think that DeSantis won. You get some credible middle of the road commentator like conservative Democrat Doug Schoen. He thought Newsom won in terms of the optics of it. And I can't disagree. I think Newsom has disappointed. Similarly, I think, Nikki Haley, the camera is her friend. She really thrives in that kind of media. If you put, so I don't know. I mean, DeSantis, I think he should have made himself maybe available to more coaching or something like that and anticipated what he needed to be to up his game. I'm with you. I love his positions on practically everything. I love his personal backstory, went to the Little League World Series, played in the championship game, was a, baseball star at Yale, was a star law student. He was, lawyer for some of our special operations forces. I mean, he's got a great story. He's got a great mind. He's got great positions, but he just did not, he just couldn't pull it together in front of the camera.
Very true.
His wife
nailed it all.
His wife, what? She's the star, right?
She's a star, yeah.
Yeah. I want to ask you one more thing about Doug before we let you go. And I know, Jay, you want to get in here too. You sure can. Can you see after, even the stage that Doug Burgum was on was, literally from the little leagues to the major leagues, right? North Dakota governor, obviously well-known, knows a lot of people, but it has gone to a whole different level by doing what he did so far and getting his name out there and standing up for rural America. Do you think he can come back and be satisfied as just being the governor of North Dakota, or do you think he's going to need some other bigger prize?
Well, though I was born and raised in North Dakota, I've lived my adult life in California. And so I feel really unqualified speaking on specific North Dakota political issues. But I know we were talking about this earlier, and I tend to think that maybe he would be more fulfilled moving on to a new position. Now, North Dakota has two great Republican senators in Kramer and Hoeven. And that's not a position that would really suit Doug that well anyway. It's more of an ambassadorial, being a senator is not, you're not using your executive skills. Here we're talking about somebody with supreme executive skills and entrepreneurial skills, as good as it gets, not just once with Great Plains, but as an investor and all the things that he's done. That's why I think he needs to be, that's why I think head of the RNC. And just completely remaking that and bringing it into the modern age, would be something where he would just be a huge hit. And we wouldn't be talking about Republicans underperforming in the next election cycle because they missed something that the Democrats didn't miss.
Hey, Rich, Jay Thomas here. Nice to meet you. You talk about Governor Burgum moving on to the RNC, and I think you're right. I think he would love that because he is not a fan of the RNC and how it's run. And I think Doug would go in there, shake it up, and I think he'd shake it up in a good way because let's be honest, the Republican Party right now is a disaster. They do not know how to play politics. They are getting they are getting wiped out by the Democrats. They just want to clutch and say no, we can't do that. They got to learn how to stand up and fight for the people they represent, and that's us. It's America, and I'm 100% with you. Real quick, I know you got to go, sir. I want to go back to Gavin Newsom. This guy scares the living daylights out of me. He is such a slick. I always say he reminds me of Gregory Peck's character on The Omen, Damien's father. He's just a slick, scary dude, and he's got that look and that slickness, and he's smooth. And there's a lot of Americans that don't follow the background of these politicians. They just see this guy. He's got the look. I think this guy would be devastating for the country, but I think he's got a good shot. Maybe not in 2024. He claims he's not running, but boy, 2028, look out. I think this guy's coming our way.
Well, it's going to be the grand showdown between the two Californians that none of us here in this program would vote for or want to have as president. Kamala Harris and Gavin Newsom. And Gavin Newsom, can read the polls, and Kamala Harris has real problems. And California is a jackpot for money raising, both Hollywood and Silicon Valley. Now, I've met Newsom a couple times, I mean, I have to say, the guy, I met Clint Eastwood once in around 1980. And what struck you is that he was even better looking in person and tall. And I hate to say it, but that's how Gavin Newsom strikes you. The guy's an honest to God 6'4" or 5", and he looks like he stepped out of, some Hollywood leading man role, and he has that going for him. He's going to leave California in just a wretched condition, more so than it is now. And California is so overly dependent on Silicon Valley and entertainment, and it's chased just about everything else away. And even Silicon Valley's, all this AI stuff and cloud computing, it is a massive user of electricity. And we've let the electricity well run dry in California because of the hostility toward, fossil fuels and nuclear and, and all of those things that we need in an all in energy environment that the country needs. So California, by the time he leaves office, is going to have a rolling blackouts. I guarantee you that.
Great talking to you, Rich. Really appreciate your insight and analysis. Love what you do at Forbes Magazine. Our best to Mr. Forbes and your A-team there. We appreciate what you do.
Hey, well, thank you so much. Thanks you for having me on the show. I'm talking to the man who talked to one of the best presidents we've had. So there we go. I'm honored.
Thanks, Rich. We appreciate you very much. Rich Karlgaard, publisher of Forbes Magazine. Should I head out and talk to some folks?
Let's go talk to the people. They're the real stars of the show here tonight. Now the Rich is gone. I know that everybody's making Scotty seem like he's going to walk on water here, but I think the guests out front are probably the stars of our show tonight.
Well, Scotty does that and gets out there with the people. Let's set up tonight. Now, tonight, this debate, you're not going to hear it on radio. You're only going to see it on News Nation. Now, News Nation, they're still trying to gain an audience. They took over WG in America about 3 years ago. Your moderators tonight, Elizabeth Vargas, alongside Megyn Kelly is one of the moderators. And, of course, a former Fox News anchor, now has a very popular podcast. And also Elena Johnson of the conservative news site Washington Free Beacon. Those are your moderators tonight. So if you're looking for the debate, you're gonna have to look for it on News Nation. And again, you will not hear it on radio. We'll be here throughout the debate tonight, and we'll keep you up to date with what's happening. Of course, only 4 candidates on the stage tonight, so we'll see what happens. We'll see if they're gonna. We know Christie, like you said, Steve, he's gonna go after Trump. It's gonna be a DeSantis Haley battle back and forth with Ramaswamy throwing his little body blow punches.
Yeah, and that was a News Nation call that nobody could carry it on radio, so it's not our choice. It's the hand we're dealt, so we're glad to have you with us on the video stream. Right. Scott Hennen is out there hanging out with the folks. Scotty, take it away.
This is the best part of our debate watch parties is real people, listeners to the flag, folks that are trying to decide like the rest of America, who do I like, who don't I like. I'm going to start with a show of hands because that's easy, and then I'll come chat with a few of you. 4 candidates on the stage tonight. Nikki Haley. Who's coming in kind of thinking they like what they see with Nikki Haley? Just 2 of you. Okay, Ron DeSantis. How many hands here like Ron DeSantis? Okay, that's a pretty good number. Vivek Ramaswamy, got any fans there? All right, a few more. And Chris Christie. Do we have any Chris Christie fans in here? Gosh, we don't, fellas. I'm just so surprised. It just is amazing to me. What do you want to happen tonight? What do you want to see? She lost her voice. You can talk for her.
We really want to see, I guess, Nikki Haley start wiping the floor with these people. I mean, it's about time somebody steps up and really, gets those other guys to, say, hey, I'm wrapping it up and let her get, on the top, and then we'll have the head-to-head battle.
Do you like Haley more than Trump?
Yes, in a way. I mean, I like Mr. Trump. I think he did a lot of things that I really, really like. I mean, he the whole too many tweets or whatever, but I'd take a mean tweet over my what I paid for Thanksgiving here.
Yeah, no kidding. I didn't ask you, but how about Donald Trump? How many Donald Trump fans here want to see him be the ultimate nominee? Not as many as I would think. I think there's more Ron DeSantis folks here than anything. What are you looking for tonight, sir?
Nikki Haley.
What do you want her to do?
Actually, I want somebody to fix immigration, so I have people that come work.
Yeah, interesting point. In other words, legal immigration. Get the system working again, so it's you like the idea of legal immigration just to build the workforce, I assume, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Interesting. What are you looking for tonight?
Inflation and a solution to it, because we're all feeling the heat, some more than others, but just hope for a solution from these candidates.
Anybody that you've seen in the field so far that you believe has the best solution?
I would say Vivek with his his background as an entrepreneur.
Interesting. Andrew Nice is here again, our sponsor from Americans for Prosperity. How about you? What's the of course, now you guys have a horse in this race. AFP does, at least, right?
Well, Americans for Prosperity, we just we're out identifying people who will vote. But yeah, I mean, I just like to see a good debate where it's serious and not bickering. That's really what I'm after tonight.
Yeah, and by having a horse in this race, I meant the Koch brothers, who obviously, the Koch family, they've come out now in support of Haley, right?
Yeah, the AFP Action has endorsed Haley. So
different arm.
Yeah, right. Yep.
Got it. All right, looking forward to find out what's going to happen tonight. Just to check with one more here. What do you think? What do you want to happen tonight?
Kind of like what Andrew said. I just want to see a good debate. Just kind of figure out where people stand a little bit more.
Show of hands, how many people are disappointed Doug Burgum dropped out of the race? Just a couple, huh? It was time? Not on that debate stage? Interesting. All right, well, watch with great interest along with us, and we'll come on out during the breaks and check in with you and get a chance to talk to all of you tonight, so stay tuned. Thanks. Guys, back to you.
All right. We're about, 3 minutes away from the debate again. This will not be on the radio, and that was not our choice. That was, Steve, you said that was News Nation that set that up?
Yeah, we were not, radio coverage is not allowed of this debate. The people that are putting it together, they have to give permission to people like us to carry it on the radio, and in this case, we were not able to get that. That's why we're going around. We're finding ways to get her done, but we had to go around the bush to get this one done.
So you can watch it and follow along with our commentary, but you've got to go online to do that at our website, am1100theflag.com.
Now, how are we going to do this? We're going to have to turn some volume up somewhere to hear this debate.
Yeah, we'll
get it figured out.
We'll pipe it in.
We got some wizards in there that'll figure all this stuff out and see what's going to happen. And I'm really interested. You know, I was so disappointed in the last debate. I mean, it sucked, for lack of a better term. It was so awful.
It was better than the first one.
You thought so?
Yeah, well, the first one was a disaster. You had 11 people out there, and everybody was fighting for everything.
So I'm hoping tonight is some of the folks out here said, just give me the meat and potatoes of what you're going to do and how you're going to do it.
Honestly, Scott and Steve, I don't even think we're going to see that tonight, because you've got. I think, of course, if Christie was off the stage and Vivek was off the stage, those two are just going to keep interjecting, and they're going to throw. It's going to throw Haley and DeSantis off. I mean, if we want to see the real debate, we need to see a DeSantis and Haley debate to get this thing wrapped up. And guys,
don't forget Donald Trump at some point.
Look, Trump is not getting on the stage with any of these
He's
people.
not. No, Jay is right.
Nobody. There is nobody on this stage that's going to come close to Trump. I mean, let's be honest. This is just showmanship, and that's about it. And this is just in case something happens to Trump. We've got a backup. That's what this is.
The great one, Mark Levin, will be live blogging this as well if you're listening on the radio. Otherwise, tune on at am1100theflag.com.
You can watch us on our YouTube channel, AM1100 The Flag. You can also watch us on our Facebook page, AM1100 The Flag. And it is debate time, guys.
All right, let's get to it.
They are pumping it into our ears. How about that? Fantastic.
Yeah, all right. Watch along online with us, folks. Thanks for listening. And we'll have a post show after the debate talking to the folks that are watching with us.
It's about tradition, family, faith, and college football. But on this night, the final showdown of the year moves to a new stage on America's newest cable news network. 40 days before the Iowa caucuses, millions of votes are still up for grabs. And 4 candidates are fighting for every last one of them. Who could catch fire and shock the political world?
2024 is do or die for us. We're not getting a mulligan on this.
Governor Ron DeSantis.
We have to have a new generational leader.
Former Ambassador Nikki Haley.
You're either pro-American or you're anti-American. That is the choice we face.
Vivek Ramaswamy.
We deserve better character in the White House.
Former Governor Chris Christie. Live on News Nation, news for all America. The lights are on, the field is set. It's game day in Alabama. And who knows what the tide will roll in.
Nice setup by News Nation, Steve.
This is a great get for them to be able to have this event. This puts them on a big stage, literally and figuratively.
Primary debate of the year, live from the University of Alabama. I'm Megyn Kelly, host of the Megyn Kelly Show podcast on SiriusXM.
I'm Eliana Johnson with the Washington Free Beacon.
And I'm Elizabeth Vargas with News Nation, and we are live on News Nation and the CW. It is make or break time for the candidates on this stage right now, with the primary starting just weeks away. And we have a lot to cover over the next 2 hours. So let's begin with tonight's rules. Candidates will have 90 seconds to answer questions, 60 seconds to give a rebuttal at the moderator's discretion. You will all see the timing lights that will indicate when time is up and it's time to stop talking.
And the time we have is critical over the next 2 hours, so we ask the audience to please keep your applause to a minimum.
All right, with that, let's get started. On stage tonight, 4 candidates, all vying to become their party's nominee. And given the state of affairs in our political system right now, one of you might very well do it. Even many Democrats now admit that President Biden is a weak candidate, just as many Republicans acknowledge that former President Donald Trump's multiple legal troubles could imperil his quest for a second term, all of which means one of you could wind up the leader of the free world. Having said that, Mr. Trump is nearly 50 points ahead of all of you in the national polls, 29 points ahead in Iowa, where the GOP caucuses are less than 6 weeks away. And so, as Republicans get ready to vote on whether any of you might be preferable to Mr. Trump, we begin with the question of electability. Governor DeSantis, your campaign and its super PAC have spent the most money, had the most high net worth donors, and had a wave of momentum coming into this race after your big re-election win in Florida. You were seen by many as the candidate most likely to consolidate the non-Trump field. But here we are, a month out from the first real votes, and you haven't managed to do it. In fact, Nikki Haley is beating you in New Hampshire and South Carolina now, and closing in on you in Iowa, not to mention Trump, who is not only dominating in the early states, but is beating you in Florida by over 30 points. Is it fair to say, as Senator Tim Scott did when he dropped out, that voters are telling you, not no, but not now?
So we have a great idea in America that the voters actually make these decisions, not pundits or pollsters. I'm sick of hearing about these polls because I remember those polls in November of 2022. They said there was going to be a big red wave. It was going to be monumental, and that crashed and burned. The one place it didn't crash and burn was in the state of Florida. They weren't predicting that I would win the way I did, and I won the greatest Republican victory in the history of the state of Florida. I'm looking forward to Iowa and New Hampshire. The voters are going to be able to speak, and we're going to earn this nomination. And here's what we need. I am sick of Republicans who are not willing to stand up and fight back against what the left is doing to this country. You've got to be willing to stand strong, and you've got to be willing to beat these people. I'm the only one running for president that has beaten these people on issue after issue. We beat the teachers' unions when we did school choice. We beat Fauci on COVID. We beat George Soros when we removed 2 of his radical district attorneys. We beat the Democrats on election integrity. I have delivered results. That's what we need for this country. And you have other candidates up here like Nikki Haley. She caves anytime the left comes after her, anytime the media comes after her. I did a bill in Florida to stop the gender mutilation of minors. It's child abuse and it's wrong. She opposes that bill. She thinks it's fine and the law shouldn't get involved with it. If you're not willing to stand up for the kids, if you're not willing to stand up and say that it is wrong to mutilate these kids, then you're not going to fight for the people back home. I will fight for you, and I will win for you.
Ambassador Haley, you left government service in 2018 with just $100,000 in the bank. 5 years later, you're reportedly worth $8 million, thanks to lucrative corporate speeches and board memberships like you had with Boeing. Weeks ago, you met with Wall Street heavyweights, including leaders from J.P. Morgan, Goldman Sachs, and BlackRock. Several other billionaire investors are reportedly ready to endorse you, or recently have, all of which comes with expectations. Aren't you too tight with the banks and the billionaires to win over the GOP's working class base, which mostly wants to break the system, not elect someone beholden to it?
Ooh.
Well,
Megan.
thank you. It's great to be here. You know, first I'll tell you, just to respond to Ron, he continues to lie about my record. I actually said his Don't Say Gay bill didn't go far enough because it only talked about gender until the 3rd grade. And I said it shouldn't be done at all, that's for parents to talk about. It shouldn't be talked about with schools. In reference to donors coming on board, look, we will take support from anybody we can take support from. But I have been a conservative fighter all my life. I was a Tea Party candidate when I became governor. We opposed every single corporate bailout we possibly could. We passed tort reform. We passed one of the toughest illegal immigration laws in the country. We passed pro-life bills. We moved in unemployment from 11% to 3%. We took on the unions, and we took on Obama when it came to the unions, the Syrian refugees, and everything in between. And so I've had a fight. And so as much as Ron says that, that's not true. But when it comes to these corporate people that want to suddenly support us, we'll take it. But I don't ask them what their policies are. They ask me what my policies are. And I tell them what it is. Sometimes they agree with me, sometimes they don't. Some don't like how tough I am on China. Some don't like the fact that I've signed pro-life bills. Some don't like the fact that I may oppose corporate bailouts. That doesn't matter. That's who I am. And that's why the most conservative grassroots group in the country, Americans for Prosperity, endorsed me last week.
Well, I'm not sure they're the most conservative group in America. No. And I don't like the fact that they're not letting all the candidates answer the same question.
Parents' Rights and Education bill. It was about prohibiting sex change operations on minors. They do puberty blockers. These are irreversible. Talk to Chloe Cole. She went through this. Now she's an adult. She's warning against it. She may never be able to have kids again. That is what Nikki Haley opposed. She said the law shouldn't get involved in that. And I just ask you, if you're somebody that's going to be the president of the United States and you can't stand up against child abuse, how are you going to be able to stand up for anything? That is the truth. We have it on video.
I said that if you have to be 18 to get a tattoo, you should have to be 18 to have anything done to change your gender.
You said the law should stay out of it.
We're gonna get to this in more detail later. Let's finish with electability, but trust me, we're coming back to this issue. Mr. Ramaswamy, for months you campaigned as a unifier. Then you stood up at the first debate and attacked all of your competitors as bought and paid for. The second debate, you changed your tune, saying these are good people on this stage, admitting you can come across as a bit of a know-it-all and rejecting the practice of personal insults. By debate number 3, you called Nikki Haley corrupt, accused Ron DeSantis of wearing high heels, and told Ambassador Haley she should keep a closer eye on her daughter. Can you see how this has led some to conclude you are not, in fact, a unifier, and to question your authenticity?
Megan, I think there's a time and place for everything. We need somebody in the White House who absolutely is going to be a fighter when it counts. And I did say that there were some good people on that stage in that third debate. Doug Burgum was on that stage at that time, and I'll say that jokingly. Ron DeSantis is a good person, too. I want to go back, though, to Nikki Haley's comment from earlier that she is somehow not responding to the will of these donors. Nikki, you were bankrupt when you left the UN. After you left the UN, you became a military contractor. You actually started joining service on the board of Boeing, whose back you scratched
Gotta be careful
for a
with this.
very long time, and then gave foreign multinational speeches like Hillary Clinton is, and now you're a multimillionaire. That math does not add up. It adds up to the fact that you are corrupt. And when I said they were bought and paid for, I meant the Republican establishment, not the Democratic establishment. Now you have Reid Hoffman, the person who's effectively George Soros Jr., funding lawsuits across this country against Donald Trump to keep him off the ballot, funding left-wing causes. We discovered this week that he is one of Nikki Haley's largest supporters. Larry Fink, the king of the woke industrial complex, the ESG movement, the CEO of BlackRock, the most powerful company in the world, now supporting Nikki Haley. And to say that doesn't affect her is false, because it's after that meeting later that day.
If look
that she
chill
says
right now.
that
Look at
every
Nikki Haley.
American
She's not
will be
happy.
doxxed by having their ID, their government-issued ID, tied to what they say on the internet. So I think that this is far more corrupt than I even imagined when I entered politics. But I will say this. It is going to take a leader from the outside, with fresh legs, from the next generation to unite this country. Not the broken politicians who are puppets of the puppet masters, but the actual people in this country. Thomas Jefferson was 33 when he wrote the Declaration of Independence. I think it's going to take somebody whose best days in life are still ahead to see a country whose best days are ahead of itself.
He
and
is
I
good.
think I can reach that next generation.
Great orator.
Better than anybody else in this race.
Thank you. Response.
Megan.
He is so gifted as a
First of all,
communicator.
we weren't bankrupt when I left the UN. We're people of service. My husband is in the military, and I served our country as UN ambassador and governor. It may be bankrupt to him, but it certainly wasn't bankrupt to us. Secondly, I did serve on the board of Boeing. I did a lot of work with Boeing when I was governor. They were a great partner to me. I served for 10 months. And then when they decided after COVID that they wanted to go for a corporate bailout, I've never supported corporate bailout, so I respectfully stepped back and got off the board. I love Boeing. They build good commercial airplanes. They build airplanes for our Air Force. I am proud of them. They employ a lot of people in South Carolina. But that's why I left the Boeing board. There's nothing to what he's saying. And in terms of these donors that are supporting me, they're just jealous. They wish that they were supporting them. But I'm not going to sit there and
Let me get the governor in another.
Give me a break.
And Vivek, he wrote a book talking about ESG and these woke corporations and BlackRock. The idea that I want to do that in Florida, they were managing our part of our pension, and then when they did the ESG, I took $2 billion away from BlackRock. We took action. This ESG, they call it environment, social governance, and again, Nikki is meeting with all these people. They want to use economic power to impose a left-wing agenda on this country. They want basically to change society without having to go through the constitutional process. We've kneecapped it in the state of Florida. The next president of the United States needs to be able to go to that office on day one and end ESG. And the fact of the matter is, we know from her history, Nikki will cave to those big donors when it counts. And that is not acceptable.
I did write that book, Ron, and the irony is Nikki Haley was heaping praise on me when I wrote that book, but now I worry. I was warning about the woke industrial complex in this country as a warning. Apparently, she read it as a how-to manual, just like she reads George Orwell's books as well. And so I think that that's actually far more dangerous than, this is really important for people to understand. We're marching towards fascism under Biden. Jack Smith has subpoenaed every last retweet that someone has issued from Donald Trump in the year 2020. The only person more fascist than the Biden regime now is Nikki Haley, who thinks the government should identify every one of those individuals with an ID. That is not freedom, that is fascism, and she should come nowhere near the levers of power, let alone the White House.
I've got to get to Governor Christie. I haven't forgotten
No,
about
but
you,
can
sir.
I just say
But
these guys...
Can you speak?
I really appreciate
How
that.
you doing, sir?
Good to see you.
Can you please speak to the requirement that you said that every anonymous internet user needs to out themselves? They're both hitting you on it.
I would be happy to, and I love all the attention, fellas. Thank you for that. I'll say this. What I said was that social media companies need to show us their algorithms. I also said there are millions of bots on social media right now. They're foreign, they're Chinese, they're Iranian. I will always fight for freedom of speech for Americans. We do not need freedom of speech for Russians and Iranians and Hamas. We need social media companies to go and fight back on all of these bots that are happening. That's what I said. As a mom, do I think that social media would be more civil if we went and had people's names next to that? Yes, I do think that, because I think we've got too much cyberbullying. I think we've got child pornography and all of those things. But having said that, I never said government should go and require anyone's name.
That's false. She said, I want your name.
She
as President of the
absolutely
United States, her first day in office, she said, one of the first things I'm going to do,
I said we were going to get the millions
I want
of
your
bots.
name.
She wants government ID to dox every American.
That's what she said. You can roll the tape. She said, I want your name. And that was going to be one of the first things she did in office. And then she got real serious blowback, and understandably so, because it'd be a massive expansion of government. We have anonymous speech. The Federalist Papers were written with anonymous writers. Jay, Madison, and Hamilton, they went under Publius. It's something that's important, and especially given how conservatives have been attacked and they've lost jobs and they've been canceled. You know the regime would use that to weaponize that against our own people.
Okay,
it was a bad idea, and she should own up to it.
Come on, now, what
I'm going to give you 15 seconds, and then there is the governor, former governor of New Jersey.
This cracks me up because Ron is so
it.
hypocritical, because he actually went and tried to push a law that would stop anonymous people from talking to the press, and went so far to say bloggers should have to register with the state if they're going to talk
Does anybody
about
like this right now?
officials.
Is
It
this
was in the
entertaining to
check
anyone?
your
It's
newspaper.
informative?
It was absolutely
No.
there.
Yes.
I have never said
Get
government
control,
should-
people.
On your constitutional
You can come back to it
rights.
later. No,
This is more dangerous than the
You're
Democrats.
not, this section's over. Okay. Governor Christie.
Really?
Just that
I'm
piece.
usually not somebody who gets missed, but okay, let's go.
What's happening?
Good line.
I got you.
Best line of the night.
Listen, you endorsed Donald Trump in 2016 and 2020. You gave him an A for his first term. Since then, however, you've turned on him, calling him a liar, a loser, a con man, and someone who cannot win. You've even said that you got into this race just to stop President Trump. His approval rating with Republicans is currently at 81%. Yours is at 25%. Your best state is New Hampshire, and even there, 2/3 of GOP voters say they would be angry and disappointed if you won. Respectfully, Governor, you have not stopped Mr. Trump, and voters may wonder how you could possibly become the nominee of a party that does not appear to like you very much.
Yeah, well, look, Megan, it's often very difficult to be the only person on the stage who's telling the truth, and the only person who is taking on what needs to be taken on. I look at my watch now. We're 17 minutes into this debate.
Oh boy, here we go.
And except for your little speech in the beginning, we've had these three acting as if the race is between the four of us. The fifth guy, who doesn't have the guts to show up and stand here, he's the one who, as you just put it, is way ahead in the polls. And yet, I've got these three guys who are all seemingly to compete with, Voldemort, he who shall not be named. They don't want to talk about it. The fact is that when you go and you say the truth about somebody who is a dictator, a bully, who has taken shots at everybody, whether they've given him great service or not over time, who dares to disagree with him, then I understand why these three are timid to say anything about it. Maybe it's because they have future aspirations. Maybe those future aspirations are now, or maybe they're 4 years from now. But the fact of the matter is, the truth needs to be told.
Of course it is.
Falling asleep
for us to go
here.
17 minutes without discussing the guy who has all those gaudy numbers you talked about is ridiculous. I'm in this race because the truth needs to be spoken. He is unfit. This is a guy who just said this past week that he wants to use the Department of Justice to go after his enemies when he gets in there. I mean, the fact of the matter is, he is unfit to be president, and there is no bigger issue in this race, Megan, than Donald Trump.
Then tell us what you're going to do.
Exactly.
Governor Christie,
Good Lord.
we will be addressing that issue of Donald Trump in just a moment, but I'd like to first get to some questions on Israel. Governor DeSantis, tonight as we speak, the war is back on in Gaza. Israeli tanks are on the move and have surrounded the home of the leader of Hamas. 8 Americans have been held hostage in the tunnels beneath Gaza for 60 days now. American troops and warships in the Middle East are under attack. How far would you go as president to secure the release of those 8 American hostages? And would it include sending American forces into combat?
We have to look out for our people. When there are hostages, Commander-in-Chief, you have to do whatever you can to get them done. But the overall issue with this is this administration is trying to hobble Israel from being able to defend itself. They have a right to eliminate Hamas and win a total and complete victory so that they never have to deal with this again. Hamas wants nothing less than a second Holocaust. They would wipe off every single Jew off the map. They would destroy the state of Israel if we could. Joe Biden will say they support Israel, and then they do nothing but try to kneecap them every step of the way. You should not try to direct their war effort. We should work together with them so that they can bring Hamas to heel. Look, I served in Iraq back in the day. I'm the only one running for president that served in the military. I understand that part of the world. It's not the best part of the world. We do have troops there that Biden is leaving basically as sitting ducks. And you have the Iranians that are attacking these troops, and he's responding with basically pinpricks. If you harm an American service member, you're going to have hell to pay when I'm president. We are not going to let our troops be sitting ducks. We also need to look at what's the underlying problem here. Iran. Biden is doing nothing to bring Iran to account. You got to turn the screws on them. Don't let them have any oil revenue. The money they get, they send to Hamas, they send to Hezbollah, and they foment jihad throughout the Middle East. So Biden has empowered Iran just like he's empowered other adversaries. We stand with Israel. They're our best ally in the Middle East. We have a unique relationship with them, and you will see a strong relationship when I'm the president of the United States.
But would you send American troops?
Elizabeth, look, this is the problem with the first three debates. Ron gets asked a question, and he doesn't answer it. Your question was very specific. You said, would you send American troops as commander-in-chief? And he went on to this minute and 30-second hosanna about his knowledge of the military and what we need to do, and didn't answer your question. Look, when you're president of the United States, you're not going to have a choice whether to answer that question or not. Your generals, your Secretary of Defense, your Secretary of State, your National Security Advisor are going to present plans to you. They're going to look at you and say, do we go or don't we, Mr. President? And you can't give a 90-second speech about your military service, as laudable as it is.
Would you send American troops in to rescue those hostages?
Absolutely. If they had a plan which showed me that we could get them out safely, you're damn right I'd send the American Army in there to get our people home and get them home now. And I'll answer that question directly.
Thank you, Governor.
Good for him on that.
Mr. Ramaswamy, you have said it was irresponsible for Ambassador Haley to call Hamas's terrorist rampage an attack on America and for her to, quote, rabidly shout, finish them, end quote. The Hamas terror attack left dozens of Americans dead and was the deadliest attack on Jews since the Holocaust. Why wouldn't it be a good thing to finish Hamas?
Finish them was purposefully vague in a discussion that included Iran, which is what I objected to. And I think it's, as U.S. president, you have to be responsible. What happened to Israel was dead wrong. What Hamas did was medieval. It was subhuman. It was immoral. And we have to call that out for what it is on October 7th. But to say that that was an attack on America fails a basic test. I mean, Nick, if you can't tell the difference between where Israel is and the U.S. is on a map, I can have my 3-year-old son show you the difference. That is irresponsible because it has major consequences, because that doesn't leave room for what actually is an attack on America. So I believe I have the strongest pro-Israel position actually on the stage, even though it's a little bit different than the standard GOP talking points. And it is this. The founding vision of Israel, David Ben-Gurion, the George Washington figure of Israel, what did he believe? He believed that we don't want, as Israel, to depend on the fleeting sympathies of the West and have our hands tied. I think Israel has an absolute right to defend itself to the fullest, without the U.S., the UN, or the EU, or anybody else second-guessing their decisions, as the Biden administration, guess what, is now starting to do. I think that's a more deeply pro-Israel position than anybody else, and it keeps the actual lines of accountability clear because it is a pro-American position. And as leader of the United States of America, just as a father of 2 sons, my sole moral duty is to my family. As your next president, my sole moral duty is to you, the people of this country. That's how I'm going to lead. So I'll tell Bibi, you smoke the terrorists on your southern border, you go ahead and we're rooting for you. We're going to smoke the terrorists on our own southern border, and that's how I'm going to lead this country.
But Americans were killed in that attack. Americans were killed in that attack. And so if you looked at this terrorist attack and the number of Americans, this would be one of the top 10 terrorist attacks in American history. So our own people were killed in that attack. And I think it's absolutely appropriate to point that out and to say that we're in this together, and we are going to work with Israel so that these people are brought to justice.
I agree with that.
Ambassador Haley, I'm coming to you. Iran is on the threshold of becoming a nuclear state. The Wall Street Journal reported that Iranian military leaders gave the green light for Hamas's attack on Israel. You said in last month's debate that, by contrast to the Biden administration's approach to Iran, you would, quote, punch them once and punch them hard. Were you saying that it's time to bomb Iran?
No, I was not saying it's time to bomb Iran, but I will tell you, I dealt with Iran every day when I was at the United Nations, and they only respond to strength. What they don't respond to is when you weaken the sanctions like they did on Iran, that allowed China to send them billions to fill their proxies. What they don't respond to is when you give $6 billion for 5 hostages. That only makes them want more hostages. What they don't respond to is when they do 140 strikes on our men and women in Syria and Iraq, and we do nothing but just some small shots back. You've got to punch them, you've got to punch them hard, and let them know that. That's the only way they're going to respond. So the way you do that is you go after their infrastructure in Syria and Iraq where they're hitting our soldiers. That's what you do, and then that's when they'll back off. The problem is you have to see that all of these are related. If you look at the fact Russia was losing that war with Ukraine. Putin had hit rock bottom. They had raised the draft age to 65. He was getting drones and missiles, drones from Iran, missiles from North Korea. And so what happened? When he hit rock bottom, all of a sudden, his other friend, Iran, Hamas goes and invades Israel and butchers those people on Putin's birthday. There is no one happier right now than Putin because all of the attention America had on Ukraine suddenly went to Israel. And that's what they were hoping is going to happen. We need to make sure that we have full clarity that there is a reason, again, that Taiwanese want to help Ukrainians because they know if Ukraine wins, China won't invade Taiwan. There's a reason the Ukrainians want to help Israelis because they know that if Iran wins, Russia wins. These are all connected. But what wins all of that is a strong America, not a weak America. And that's what Joe Biden's given us.
I want to say one thing about the tie to Ukraine, if I may. So foreign policy experience is not the same as foreign policy wisdom. I want everybody at home to note that I was the first person to say we need a reasonable peace deal in Ukraine. Now a lot of the neocons are quietly coming along to that position, with the exceptions of Nikki Haley and Joe Biden, who still support this, what I believe is pointless war.
He's really taking aim at her tonight.
And I think those with foreign policy experience, one thing that Joe Biden and Nikki Haley have in common is that neither of them could even state for you 3 provinces in eastern Ukraine that they want to send our troops to actually fight for.
Whatever.
Look at that. This is what I want people to understand. These people have, I mean, she has no idea what the hell the names of those provinces are, but she wants to send our sons and daughters and our troops and our military equipment to go fight it. So reject this myth that they've been selling you, that somebody had a cup of coffee stint at the UN and then makes $8 million after, has real foreign policy experience. It takes an outsider to see this through. Look at the blank expression. She doesn't know the names of the provinces that she wants to actually fight for. And there's her puppet masters right there.
Seems like schoolyard fight there, doesn't it? Squabbling.
Okay, hold on. Let me just say something here.
Oh, good.
You know,
oh, good. Chris, say something.
His reasonable peace deal in Ukraine, he made it clear. Give them all the land they've already stolen. Promise Putin you'll never put Ukraine in Russia, and then trust Putin not to have a relationship with China. Let me tell you something. That's no
That's
reasonable.
not my deal. That's not my deal,
yes,
Chris.
it's exactly what you
I'll
said.
describe my
You do
deal
this
to
at
you.
every debate.
I'll tell you exactly what it is.
Don't interrupt
I'll
me.
tell
I
you what
didn't
the deal
interrupt you. Okay? You
Tell
say
them
this.
about how you
You
want to
do
send our
this.
kids to die.
You
Go
do
for it.
this at every debate. You go out on the stump and you say something. All of us see it on video. We confront you out on the debate stage. You say you didn't say it, and then you back away. And I want to
I'll
say
tell you
what.
exactly
No,
what I said, Chris.
I'm not done yet.
Well, this
now
is
look.
Oh, my God.
nonsense. This man is spewing. This man is spewing nonsense.
Let me tell you something. This is the 4th debate. The 4th debate that you would be voted in the first 20 minutes as the most obnoxious blowhard in America. So shut up for a while.
I'm going to respond to that.
I want to say
Your version of
We're going to let you respond to that. We're going to let you respond to that. Let him finish.
I want to say something else. We're now 25 minutes into this debate.
Oh, here he goes.
And he has insulted Nikki Haley's basic intelligence. Not her positions, her basic intelligence. She doesn't know regions. She wouldn't be able to find something on a map that his 3-year-old could find. Look, if you want to disagree on issues, that's fine. And Nikki and I disagree on some issues. But I'll tell you this, I've known her for 12 years, which is longer than he's even started to vote in the Republican primary.
True facts.
And while we disagree about some issues and we disagree about who should be president of the United States, what we don't disagree on is this is a smart, accomplished woman, and you should stop insulting her.
So I'm going to take this, I'm going to take several times over.
It's dangerous what Vic's doing with Haley.
I think we just learned something from Chris Christie. We learned 3 things.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
We learned 3 things right there. First of all, Chris Christie also doesn't know what provinces in eastern Ukraine he actually wants us to fight for. Chris, your version of foreign policy experience was closing a bridge from New Jersey to New York.
Yeah.
So do everybody a favor. Just walk yourself off that stage, enjoy a nice meal, and get the hell out of this.
Oh, my gosh.
When it comes to Nikki, I think if you're going to actually send
Fist fight.
your
He
sons
doesn't
and
care if
daughters
he
to go
wins or
die in
not. He's
somebody
just out
else's
here
war,
having fun.
you
You
better,
weren't
excuse
voting.
me, Chris, I'm speaking, and I'm not done yet.
I haven't
you had
heard
your
a
chance,
time when you aren't
and we're going to be
speaking.
done. So listen up to this. If these people want to send your sons and daughters to go die in Ukraine, they've been arguing for it for a year. $200 billion of our taxpayer money sent over. Neither of them could even name for you the provinces that they actually want to protect. And this is the people who have been touting their so-called foreign policy experience. It is intellectual fraud. These people are lying to you, the same people who told you about weapons and mass destruction in Iraq. To justify that invasion, didn't know the first thing about it, yet they sent thousands of our sons and daughters to go die. The same people who told you the same in Afghanistan, where the Taliban is still in charge 20 years later. $7 trillion of our national debt due to these toxic neocons. You can put lipstick on a Dick Cheney, it is still a fascist neocon.
Thank
and
you,
you got to
Mr.
see that
Ramaswamy.
today.
Thank you,
It's
Mr.
Dick
Ramaswamy.
Cheney all over again in this party.
Thank you, Mr. Ramaswamy. 15 seconds.
We got to get back to talking about issues that people care about here.
Neither of you could even name the first thing about Eastern
Thank you.
Europe.
I think we've had enough of this.
And Crimea.
Think about that.
Let me just.
It's actually.
Come on,
Crimea
Megan.
is the wrong
All
answer.
right, the floor is Christie's.
All right. Let me just say this. You know, this is the kind of thing
Isn't it
where
DeSantis'
he
turn
talks
here?
about experience.
Been off the
You
grid
know,
for a while.
I was the U.S. attorney in New Jersey when the terrorist attacks were launched against the United States in 2001. I brought the first two cases in this country against terrorists who tried to
It's
attack
not foreign
us again.
policy experience.
And I know about the threat of terrorism and bullying in this country and around the world. And at that time, he was learning about the provinces in Ukraine, sitting with his smart-ass mouth at Harvard. That's what was going on. And so the fact of the matter is, and back then he was a Democrat. So you know the fact is that all he knows how to do.
Well, you were busy hugging
all
Barack
he knows
Obama
how
getting
to
him
do.
elected.
Thank you.
All he knows how to do is insult good people who have committed their lives to public service and not say anything that moves the ball down the field for the United States.
All right, thank you, Governor Christie. We are going to take a quick break, cool things down a little bit. When we come back, we're going to tackle issues on the southern border. We'll be back in a few minutes.
Wow.
Wow, that's right.
All right, we got a little break here, folks. Boy, is it busy in the chat room. It is crazy in there. And if you go to our YouTube channel, you can watch us here in studio out of Fargo, North Dakota. Myself, Jay Thomas, along with Steve Hallstrom and Scott Hennen. And you can chat in there. And I wouldn't even know where to start in this chat room, boys. I'm telling you,
I'll tell you who the winner is for. Winner is so far anybody but a Republican. I mean, this is not fit for a debate amongst who wants to be president of the United States. It's a food fight. It's ridiculous.
But guys, did you notice one thing? DeSantis is smart. He's staying out of this, waiting for his turn, and then hopefully he'll say, "Okay, here's what I want to do with the southern border. Here's what I want to do with the economy."
He's still flat though. He's got a charisma bypass.
He just doesn't have a charisma, and he's got the wrong people teaching him and walking him through how do you do this on a national stage. You got Vic, you got Christie. I mean, these two, they know they don't have a chance, so they are just jumping in here and, hey, let's just do whatever we can. Let's just throw haymakers out there and see if we can gain anything. Steve?
Vivek is no longer concerned about winning a contest here. He is out to either he lost a bet or there's an agenda that he's carrying water for someone, or he's just out to take names and go scorched earth and have a good time with it tonight. The way he's acting so far is going to disqualify him from anybody other than a far right, and I say that affectionately, but someone who just loves that fight and that's all. But there's no way he has an appeal carrying himself the way he's doing it tonight.
It's almost like he's trying to play the Trump card that Trump played when he first got into politics.
Nobody can pull that off.
Exactly. That's my point. Exactly.
Trump's a lot more lovable the way he does this stuff, though. Vivek is out there just trying to hurt people.
Twist a knife.
Yeah. It's punitive at this point.
I'm sorry, this is going to sound sexist, but you need to really thread the needle when you are a political opponent with a woman, and there's a fine line between, answering objections that you disagree with and being a flat-out bully. And he did not handle that well at all. I thought he crossed the line with Nikki Haley. And I'm not a Nikki Haley fan, but
I'm not a Chris Christie fan at all. I think the guy's a waste of time on the stage, just a complete waste of space. But I got to give him credit. You know, he stepped up and said, "Hey, come on, enough." You know, I'll give him credit for that.
I'd like to see Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley debate, honestly. And the other two,
because we get a good debate out of that.
The other two are really just, it's like you say, Ramaswamy's whatever, lost a bet or is not a serious candidate any longer, and Chris Christie never was.
Guys, do you think he's trying to show off for Trump, thinking, hey, if I show off, I shoot off my mouth, I go over the deep end, I don't care what I say, you know, maybe I got a shot with Trump. Did you think maybe that's some of it?
I think Trump is smarter than that.
I do too.
People want to say he is unhinged, but he's smarter than that. And you don't go as far as Vivek went with any of those people and still win the game. The way Trump fought was more above the belt than what we've seen from him so far. Chris Christie, I think the most important thing that he did tonight is he hit DeSantis hard when Christie said he would send troops into Israel. And he basically said Ron didn't want to answer the question, and he didn't. Yeah. But by Christie answering that question shows me that he's not serious about winning it anymore either. That's not an answer you give if you want to be around in this race and really be a nominee candidate going forward.
By the way, we have a live studio audience watching all this with us. Next break, we're going to go out in the audience and get their impressions of what's happening. Got a lot of people watching online. Welcome all of you to weigh in, as Jay said, on the YouTube comments. And let us know what you think. We want to hear from you. You can also email us at studio@flagfamily.com, studio@flagfamily.com. Text us at 701-237-1590, or after the debate, give us a call.
Yeah, we got about 6,500 people watching the stream now. Thanks to every one of you who is joining us,
welcome
including
to Fargo.
Those of you who haven't been with us before. We'd love to hear from you in the comments where you're watching us from tonight. That would be fun to see where you're coming from. And again, those great comments that you have, keep them coming tonight. The screen's hopping right now.
No, guys, because we're doing this all online, I don't know. I know we've got great guys in there working master control. We're going to do a post-debate get-together, us three. Are people going to be able to call us and get on with us?
I think you can still call us to get on. The phone should still work.
Okay. Well, just the fact that we're online. We'll figure it out. Let's get back to the debate.
Are among the most pressing issues for Republican voters right now, both the issue of migrants crossing illegally into our country and the separate issue of fentanyl being smuggled in mostly through legal ports of entry. All year, News Nation has been at the border documenting the crisis. In 2023 alone, Border Patrol encountered a record 2.4 million migrants. All four of you have talked tough. The question now is, how realistic is the talk? So, Governor DeSantis, I'd like to start with you. You have pledged to send the military to the southern border on day one of your administration with orders to shoot, quote, stone cold dead anyone illegally entering with a backpack that you believe contains fentanyl. Critics have called this a shoot first, ask questions later policy that would amount to extrajudicial killing. You are a former military lawyer. Why do you think this idea of yours would be legal?
The drug cartels are invading our country, and they are killing our citizens by the tens of thousands every year. We had a situation in Florida. There was an 18-month-old baby that was crawling on the floor of an Airbnb rental. There was fentanyl residue on the carpet, and the baby died. Is this acceptable in this country? I know the elites in D.C., they don't care. They don't care that fentanyl's ravaging your community. They don't care that illegal aliens are ravaging our community and overwhelming our community. The commander-in-chief not only has a right, you have a responsibility to fight back against these people.
And does that mean shooting first?
It means you're going to categorize them as foreign terrorist organizations, and we will identify, just like we would anywhere. When I was in Iraq, the Al-Qaeda wasn't wearing a uniform. You'd see anyone walking down the street, they all had man dresses on. You didn't know if someone had a bomb, an IED attached or not. And so you had to make a judgment based on intelligence, based on positive identification. But we're going to be able to get the intelligence on these cartel people. And here's the thing. If we had a wall across the southern border, which I support, this would not have happened.
Amen.
We need to build a wall across the southern border. I'll get it done, and I'll make Mexico is supposed to pay for it. Remember, here's how you do that. I am going to have fees on remittances from foreign workers when they send the money back to foreign countries. We're going to tax it, and we're going to build a wall with that. So yes, you should have had that, but we don't have it. I'm going to build it, but we have to lean in on this problem. I am not going to sit there and allow mothers to lose more kids because of fentanyl overdose. I am not going to sit there and let sex trafficking go unabated or human trafficking go unabated. There's going to be a new sheriff in town, and these drug cartels better buckle up.
Solid answer. Best of the night from DeSantis.
Best moment.
Ambassador Haley, you have pledged to catch and deport all migrants who are here in this country illegally, but then you said in Londonderry, New Hampshire last month that you will not deport those who are working and paying taxes rather than feeding off the system. Which is it?
So first of all, what I said is all of the 7 or 8 million illegals that have come under Biden's watch absolutely have to go back. We have to stop the incentive of what's bringing them over here in the first place. Biden just gave temporary protective status to 500,000 Venezuelans. That's 500,000 Social Security cards. That's 500,000 driver's licenses. And I know from my time at the United Nations, the first thing they do is pick up the phone and said, we came over, come on over. And that's what sends more. You have to go and deport these people so they know it can't happen again. For those that have been here longer than that, we've got to start seeing who is it, how long have they been here, have they been vetted, have they paid taxes, have they been working, and figure out who else is out there. But what I know is my parents came here legally. They put in the time, they put in the price. They are offended by those that are coming illegally. We can't let them skip the line. But when you talk about fentanyl like you did before, let's look at something else. Yes, I think we should send special operations over and take out the cartels. I think we should do a remain in Mexico policy so they never step foot in U.S. soil in the first place. But look at where fentanyl came from. Let's go to the heart of the matter. It came from China. That's why we need to end all normal trade relations with China until they stop murdering Americans with fentanyl. I promise you, they need our economy. They will immediately stop that. But this is where Trump went wrong. Trump was good on trade, but that's all he was with China. Because here he allowed fentanyl to continue to come over. He continued to allow them to he would give them technology that would build up their military and hurt us. He allowed the Chinese infiltration for them to buy up farmland, to put money in our universities, and to continue to do things that were harmful for America. We now have a spy base in Cuba and police stations, and Trump didn't do anything about it.
Thank you. China, though, I mean, this is rich, because when she was governor of South Carolina, she was the #1 ranked governor of bringing the CCP into her state. She wrote a love letter to the Chinese ambassador saying how great a friend China is. You can look at it. We put it on our website, rondesantis.com. There's also a video of her as governor standing in front of a Chinese flag with a Chinese business saying that she now works for them, talking about this Chinese company. So she's been very weak on China. Now, here's the problem. The rhetoric is different, but her donors, these Wall Street liberal donors, they make money in China. They are not going to let her be tough on China, and she will cave to the donors. She will not stand up for you.
15 seconds, Ambassador.
DeSantis is gaining steam.
First of all, he's mad because those Wall Street donors used to support him, and now they support me. The second thing is he has a company, a Chinese company, UGAS, that he just did a rally there last year. They have given you $340,000 in campaign donations between them and their employees. They are tied to the Communist Chinese Party. Jinko Solar is another one. They went and expanded. You gave $2 million in subsidies.
I banned China from buying land in the state of Florida.
The Department of Homeland
I ejected the Confucius Institute. Nikki Haley brought Confucius Institutes to the universities in South Carolina.
That is not true.
I ejected them. So I have a record of standing up and do what's right. And here's the thing.
You have a record of lying.
She's trying to say things like that. Even the liberal media groups that usually if I say the sky is blue, they'll fact check me and say that's wrong. They looked at her charges. They said it was totally false, that they could not find one instance of me recruiting a Chinese business coming to Florida. You know why? Because we never recruited any Chinese businesses to the state of Florida.
Thank you. Thank you.
Here we
Mr. Ramaswamy.
Yeah, he is
Over
warming
the past
up.
year, fentanyl has killed more than 75,000 Americans, 1,000 of them right here in Alabama. You have vowed to use the military to, quote, annihilate drug labs inside Mexico, something the president of Mexico said would be a hostile act. But fentanyl can easily be made anywhere, and labs that are shut down can easily and quickly be replaced. Are your tough enforcement policies offering false hope to a country racked by addiction?
To the contrary, I don't think it's going to have to come to that if we deal with the actual demand side problem that we also have in this country. I mean, the easy part is talking about how we're going to use our military to secure the border. I will, and I believe that everybody else wants to do the same thing. But the harder part is dealing with the crisis of purpose and meaning, the mental health epidemic raging across this country like wildfire. And there's a reason why after the opioid crisis, you see fentanyl. And even after we get fentanyl, and we are going to be sure to make sure we do it, this one is worse for many reasons. They're illegally lacing it into pharmaceuticals, so it's more dangerous. But we're deluding ourselves. The real false promise here is thinking that we're going to have dealt with that underlying mental health epidemic in this country by just dealing with the demand side of it. But I want to get back to this issue of the root cause, because a lot of these are coming from labs in Wuhan, China, of all places. Drug materials that are going to the Mexican drug cartels that they're pumping across that southern border like a modern opium war. I think it is going to take a U.S. president that's going to have a very different conversation with Xi Jinping than what Joe Biden just had in California. I will tell Xi Jinping, you will not only not buy land in this country or donate to universities in this country. U.S. businesses won't expand into the Chinese market until they're playing by the same set of rules. And the same country that's putting fentanyl into illegal pharmaceuticals in Mexico, it's no coincidence, is the exact same country that also unleashed hell on the world with the COVID-19 pandemic. We also have to hold them accountable with every financial lever that we have available. That is what it actually means to stand with a spine. And you mark my words, if we're willing to stand with the spine, China will absolutely have to fold because they're in a tougher spot than we are. And then we're back to playing by the same set of rules.
Thank you, Mr. Ramaswamy. Thank you. Let's talk about the economy.
Thank you. Pat him on the head.
Ambassador Haley. Homeownership has always been part of the American dream, but it's increasingly out of reach for younger Americans. This year, mortgage rates reached 30-year highs. Home prices have risen $190,000 over the past decade. Is this the free market at work? Or should the federal government do something to make homes more affordable?
Well, first of all, I mean, you're exactly right. My daughter just got married, and I saw how hard it was for her and her husband to buy a home. Right now, the average homeowner in America is 49 years old. You've got young people everywhere. That used to be the American dream, and now it's out of reach. But you look at what happened. You first of all look at what the Fed did. The Fed did a terrible job when they allowed all of that money to go through. You saw the Treasury bond rates go up. That affected mortgage rates, that affected automobile rates, that affected insurance rates. And so now we have a high interest rate. You've got a supply issue. Ask any builder. The supply issues have continued to be there. That's caused the rate to go up. And then you've got insurances that have gone up. And so what you have is a lot of younger people who, one, can't afford a home, but two, the banks aren't lending them any money. They've made the regulations so hard that they don't want to give loans on mortgages anymore. So what we have to do is we have to open it up. We have to, one, grow our economy so that people have more money in their pockets. We've got to look at the supply chain and make sure that we are funneling that so that builders don't have to sit there and go overseas to find things. And then we need to make sure that we really stop paying down this debt, make sure that we stop the borrowing, stop the spending. I'll veto any spending bill that doesn't take us back to pre-COVID levels, because our kids are not going to forgive us for all the spending that happened. And as much as everybody wants to talk about how Donald Trump had a good economy, $9 trillion in debt he did just in 4 years. And we're all paying the price of that, including those mortgage prices.
We're going to come back to
good,
President
solid
Trump,
answer
I promise.
on something that needs
Governor
a lot more
DeSantis,
discussion.
The latest News Nation Decision Desk poll found that inflation tops the worries of American voters. 61% say they're very concerned, and the working class is hardest hit. Economists say this was fueled by a glut of federal spending. The Biden administration has added $6 trillion to the national debt so far, but President Trump wasn't exactly a penny pincher. His administration added $7.8 trillion.
COVID did.
Do Republicans,
right,
including President Trump, share the blame for inflation? And what concrete steps would a President DeSantis take to help Americans make ends meet?
The borrowing, printing, and spending of money was both parties in Washington, D.C. That's just a fact. these Republicans in Washington have spent. It's driven your prices higher, and it's driven your interest rates to the point where you can't afford. I met a young fella in Iowa. He had graduated college a couple years ago, and he's like, Governor, I don't have a chance. I'm gainfully employed. He's like, I have no chance to afford a home and start a family. That is taking the American dream away from people. So we're going to get the inflation down. We're going to get the interest rates down. We are going to reduce spending, and I will be willing to veto, and I vetoed a lot as governor of Florida, and we'll do that. We're also going to open up all of our domestic energy for production, lower your gas prices, lower the price of fuel.
It all comes back to gas.
That's going to help the economy. It also help jobs, and we'll do it. But, you know, another thing that's burdening young people are these student loans. Now, I don't support having a truck driver having to pay a student loan for someone that got a degree in gender studies. That is wrong. We should not have taxpayers do that. What I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to get to the root cause of the problem. These student loans are going to be backed by the universities because they need to have an incentive to produce gainful employment for people. They should not be indulging in ideological studies. They should be focusing on things that work. And we're going to take some of this money and we're going to move it to actual vocational training. In Florida, we doubled apprenticeships. We have more truck drivers. These are in-demand skills. Don't let anybody tell you that the only way you can be successful is through a 4-year brick and ivy degree. That's one way you can be. It's not the only way.
He's gaining
steam. We're going to fix that problem in the United States of America.
He is so right about college. So right.
Mr. Ramaswamy, you've praised cryptocurrency like Bitcoin as an opt-out from our, quote, broken financial architecture, and you oppose efforts to regulate it. The head of the largest international crypto exchange just pleaded guilty to allowing his platform to launder money for terrorists, including Hamas. You say your cryptocurrency plan will, quote, ensure economic freedom for Americans, end quote. Won't it also ensure economic freedom for fraudsters, criminals, and terrorists?
Look, fraudsters, criminals, and terrorists have been defrauding people for a long time. Our regulations need to catch up with the current moment. The fact that SBF was able to do what he did at FTX shows that whatever they have as the current framework isn't working. And I think it is nothing short of embarrassing that Gary Gensler, the current leader of the SEC, in front of Congress, could not even say whether Ethereum counted as a regulated security or not. And so I think that this is just another example of the administrative state gone too far. Here's the dirty little secret in American politics today. The people who we elect to run the government are not the ones who are even actually that are writing regulations that Congress never gave them the authority to write. And the good news is a U.S. president can absolutely fix that. That takes a U.S. president with a spine. So what I've said is in my administration, by the end of year one, we will have a 75% reduction in the number of federal bureaucrats. We will shut down government agencies that should not exist. We will rescind any regulation that fails the test of West Virginia versus EPA, which is the most important Supreme Court case of our lifetime, that said if Congress didn't delegate that to an administrative agency, then it's unconstitutional. These are seismic changes. These are big changes that the next president can deliver without asking Congress for permission or for forgiveness. And I want people to understand that distinction, because people have been sold myths by politicians for a long time saying, I'm going to work with Congress to do this or that. Much of what you've heard on the stage from the other politicians fit that description. They need Congress. The things that I'm promising you, this is what the leader of the executive branch gets to do under Article 2 of the Constitution.
Thank you, sir.
Cut down the bureaucracy. That's how we grow our economy and put the Federal Reserve in its place. This is part of the crypto discussion.
No.
90% headcount reduction at the Fed.
You're out of time. 15 seconds, Governor DeSantis.
So one of the dangers that we're going to face, Biden wants, is a central bank digital currency. They want to get rid of cash, crypto. They want to force you to do that. They'll take away your privacy. They will absolutely regulate your purchases. On day one as president, we take the idea of central bank digital currency and we throw it in the trash can. It'll be dead on arrival.
We gotta go to break. Gotta get a break. I have a whole second hour to get to. It's exciting. And when we come back, we got a big subject. Huge, you might even say. Donald Trump. Stay tuned.
Well, if we were to ask who won that round, without a doubt, DeSantis did very well.
No question. Brought some things in that needed to be talked about. Unleashing American energy is gas prices is the That's the bedrock of all of this inflation issue. You bring the price of gas, bring down the price that it costs people to fill up their vehicles, transport products, get people to where they need to go and products where they need to go. Good for him on there. And also making colleges responsible for the results. Scott Hennen's out hanging out with the people. Take it away, Scotty.
All right, buddy.
All right, we're going to chat with some folks here and find out what they think. Haven't talked to everybody here yet, so I'm going to go through and just get your first impressions on what you've seen so far in the first hour.
Well, that first part before leading up to the first break was hard to watch. I thought this second set has been quite a bit better. At DeSantis, I like his record, and I thought he fell flat at first, but he's kind of warmed up a little bit, so I've been enjoying that.
Justin, how are they doing?
Well, I took some notes here. Christie calling Vivek a blowhard is Rich. His whole defense is kind of disingenuous. I don't think, back to the Haley thing, I thought actually that was kind of sexist, him defending her. And the reason why is I actually don't think he would have done that if she was a man. That's another story. But basically with, DeSantis, he's came out hard. I mean, right from the very beginning, he came out really sharp. I still contend this is all plan B. But if there's somebody on that stage that could walk into the presidency and do it today, it's DeSantis.
And he's performing well, isn't he?
Yeah, and the last thing I would just mention is regarding Vivek. I mean, again, he's, his delivery is brutal, but he is stating a lot of solid facts. I mean, hence the last clip.
All right, interesting. Who do you think's winning?
I don't know. Between Haley and DeSantis, I'm obviously looking at those two, but most of all, I'm looking at whoever is going to do better against whatever candidate they bring out at the Democrat convention to replace Biden.
And do you see any of the four there you would root for?
Well, obviously Haley or DeSantis, I think, would be the strongest candidates.
Better than Trump?
I don't know. If it's Michelle Obama or somebody like that, Trump is probably the only guy who could stand up against her. He'd smack her down.
Lord help us. That's all I can say. Are you a Michelle Obama fan, sir?
DeSantis.
DeSantis doing the job tonight?
Yes.
Did you come in liking him, or are you liking him more now?
Well, I just got here. No, I came in liking him. Yes.
And he's not disappointed so far?
I haven't seen all of it, but I think he has had enough experience in his governorship, and what I hear him saying I like. And
he's got the resume. There's no doubt about it. What do you think, sir?
I like the idea that Ramaswamy's not willing to send our military into a war that we have no part being in.
Spoken as a Marine.
As a Marine who was deployed to a war we had no business being in.
Ron DeSantis is a Marine, too. Do you not like his message on the military side?
He hasn't really said what he would do.
All right, good point. Who's winning so far?
I'm not exactly sure. I'm still skeptical in hearing what they have to say.
You enjoying this?
I am.
Is it you're getting good information on it? It's worthwhile spending the time listening?
First half, not so much, but it's getting there.
Back half better. Okay, sounds good. What do you think, sir?
I was wondering to hear how DeSantis would build on his beatdown of Newsom, and I think he's done a fair job of that. I like Ramaswamy's approach. It might not be the North Dakota way, but I like it.
All right. Bull in the China shop, a little Trump-esque, that's for sure. What do you think?
I was impressed a little bit with DeSantis tonight. Yeah.
How many people think DeSantis is winning so far? Raise your hand if you think DeSantis is winning so far. All right. How about Nikki Haley? Who thinks Nikki Haley's winning so far? Less numbers. Okay. Who's winning?
I don't know, but I think they've all got some good points.
Are you enjoying this?
Kind of.
All right, good. How about you? What do you think?
DeSantis, I think, especially after listening to the Newsom-DeSantis debate, you got a little bit to hear more of him without all the argument. So I think that is helping him a lot.
All right. How about you, sir?
I'm thinking DeSantis. That's where I'm at right now.
All right. Who's been the biggest jerk so far?
I don't know, but it seems like one giant mud wrestling match. And it's really nice that they were able to get out of the mud during the second part in order to actually talk about ideas.
Interesting. No, that's right. We want more ideas. Ma'am, put the cherry on top of this conversation so far.
I think we should just have the two right now. Get rid of Christie and get rid of Swamy and just have the two.
Anybody else just like to see this down to those two? Yeah, I agree. Let's go back to our coverage.
Back to the debate.
On the front runner in this race, Donald Trump. We invited him to come tonight, as you know, but he declined to come. But we'd like to ask you a couple questions about him now. Ambassador Haley, former President Trump recently promised, if he's reelected, to bring back and expand his program restricting immigration from Muslim countries. Here he is in Iowa on October 16th.
No longer will we allow dangerous lunatics, haters, bigots, and maniacs to get residency in our country. We're not going to let them stay here. If you empathize with radical Islamic terrorists and extremists, you're disqualified. You're just disqualified.
Ambassador Haley, do you support President Trump's plan for ideological screening?
Well, I don't think that you have a straight-up Muslim ban as much as you look at the countries that have terrorist activity that want to hurt Americans. You can ban those people from those countries. That's the way we should look at it, is which countries are a threat to us. You look at what came across the southern border. What worries me the most are those that came from Iran, from Yemen, from Lebanon, those areas where they say death to America. That's where you want to be careful. It's not about a religion. It's about a fact that certain countries are dangerous and are threats to us. A president has one job, and that's to keep Americans safe. And that's what we've got to do, is make sure that we have good national security in that process. And that's the way you should look at it, is where the terrorist threats are, how we're going to deal with it, and what we're doing about it. And the biggest threat we have right now is communist China. But you have to also look at what Iran and Russia are doing as well. And we need to be paying attention to that. That's why we have to focus on things like cyber, on space, on artificial intelligence, and not just the regular things that we've always focused on.
It's not just terrorism, though. That's important. But look what's happened in Europe. You have more anti-Semitism in Germany than at any time since Adolf Hitler. Why? Because they imported mass numbers of people who reject their culture. Europe is committing suicide with the mass migration, and it's illegal and legal.
He's 100% right.
Nikki Haley said the other day there should be no limits on legal immigration, and that corporate CEOs should set the policy on that. There needs to be limits on immigration, and we should not be importing people from cultures that are hostile. So, for example, I said with the Gaza, you had some of the squad wanted to import 300,000 people from the Gaza Strip. I said, no, we're not taking anyone from Gaza because of the anti-Semitism and because they reject American culture. So we've got to get smart about this. We cannot let the United States be like Europe.
So there's just lower-hanging fruit here. If I want more of that just hit this point, because it relates to what they just said. There are things that the government can do right now that nobody's talking about amongst the professional politicians in this race. What about all of the illegals who are already here? Here's the answer. There's 287G in the law. That is a provision that already allows ICE agents to deputize or allow local law enforcement to enforce those ICE warrants. And it shocks me that nobody in the Republican Party is talking about it, because there are 1 million then officials, law enforcement officials in this country. And against that backdrop, we absolutely have the ability to deport anybody who's in this country illegally.
Thank you,
we
Mr.
need to be talking about
Ramaswamy.
more in this country.
Thank you. Governor Christie.
Actually did that as governor of South Carolina.
Governor Christie asked last night in Iowa whether he would be a dictator if he wins a second term in office. Donald Trump quipped, no, quote, except for day one, promising to seal the southern border. He has also pledged to begin the largest deportation operation in American history, saying that migrants are, quote, poisoning the blood of our country. He has pledged to round up and expel an estimated 11 million undocumented immigrants in the United States. What do you make of that plan?
I think it's completely predictable. I mean, look, he's made it very clear. There's no mystery to what he wants to do. He started off his campaign by saying, I am your retribution. 8 years ago, he said, I am your voice. This is an angry, bitter man who now wants to be back as president because he wants to exact retribution on anyone who has disagreed with him, anyone who has tried to hold him to account for his own conduct. And every one of these policies that he's talking about are about pursuing a plan of retribution. And yet, at the first debate, my three colleagues on this stage, when asked if he would be convicted of federal felonies, would they still support him, raise their hand, looked into the camera, and let everybody know that they would still support him even if convicted of federal felonies. Federal felonies, by the way. Federal felonies which involve our election process, federal felonies which involve the most sensitive of our governmental secrets, federal felonies where he instructed others to commit crimes, folks who are now agreeing to go to jail because of what they did in his name. So do I think he was kidding when he said he was a dictator? All you have to do is look at the history. And that's why failing to speak out against him making excuses for him, pretending that somehow he's a victim, empowers him. You want to know why those poll numbers are where they are? Because folks like these three guys on the stage make it seem like his conduct is acceptable. Let me make it clear. His conduct is unacceptable. He's unfit, and be careful of what you're going to get. If you ever got another Donald Trump term, he's letting you know, I am your retribution. He will only be, Elizabeth, he will only be his own retribution. He doesn't care for the American people. It's Donald Trump first.
Thank you, Governor Christie. Governor DeSantis. Governor DeSantis.
Lots of boos for that
Thank you. Governor DeSantis. Donald Trump would be older on day one of his second presidency than Joe Biden was on day one of his first. You have said Trump is not the same man he was when he ran in 2016. Your campaign is running ads showing Trump confused. And you have said he has, quote, lost the zip on his fastball. You seem to be saying Donald Trump is no longer mentally fit to be president. Is that what you think?
Look, he is showing, father time is undefeated. The idea that we're going to put someone up there that's almost 80 and there's going to be no effects from that, we all know that that's not true. And so we have an opportunity to do a next generation of leaders and really be able to move this country forward. We also need a president that can serve 2 terms. I don't think Donald Trump, I think he's going to have, I don't think he'd be able to get elected. The Democrats want him to be the nominee. We see that. They are going to turn the screws the minute, if he got the nomination,
but do you think he's
you're going to see
mentally
it.
fit to be president?
I think we need to have somebody younger. I think when you get up to 80, I don't think it's a job for that. But let me just respond to some of the things there. Look, the media is making a big deal about what he said about some of these comments. I would just remind people that is not how he governed. He didn't even fire Dr. Fauci. He didn't fire Christopher Wray. He didn't clean up the swamp. He said he was going to drain it. He did not drain it. He said he was going to build a wall and have Mexico pay for it. We don't have the wall. He did say in 2016 he'd have the largest deportation program in history. He deported less than Barack Obama did when Barack Obama was president. So some of these policies he ran on in 16, I was cheering him on then, but he didn't deliver it. Here's what I can promise people. 100% of the things I promised as governor, I delivered on those promises. I beat the left time and time again, and that's what I'll do for you as president. We got to start winning again as a party. Yes, win the election, but we've got to start getting these issues. I will go in and wreak havoc on this bureaucracy. You will see people fired, and we are going to bring a reckoning for how this government handled COVID-19.
Now, Chris, you've had your chance to wax eloquent on Donald Trump. You've been doing it all this whole race.
Why doesn't he just answer the question? The question was very direct. Is he fit to be president or isn't he? The rest of the speech is interesting, but completely non-responsive. And if we were in a courtroom, they'd strike the answer and say, Governor DeSantis.
No, they wouldn't. They would say that
you're a smart
they would
man.
argue that
No, they would.
No, they wouldn't.
They would
Chris.
strike the answer
no, they wouldn't.
because you're not answering it.
You just don't like. You have your thing.
Is he fit or isn't he? No, I don't have my thing.
We don't.
He's the thing. Is he fit or isn't he?
Do
you're talking about him being 80 years old.
It doesn't mean that somebody couldn't get elected. That's
Governor
up to the people that
Governor DeSantis, let him
finish.
No, DeSantis, let him finish.
Ron,
I think we have an opportunity to do somebody who is in the prime of their life. You don't have to worry about all this stuff with confidence. We can get it done, and we'll do it.
I'm going to come to you. Finish.
Look, father time is undefeated. I don't know how he would score on a test, but I know this. We have an opportunity to nominate someone and elect someone for 2 terms who's going to be spitting nails on day one and for 8 years deliver you big result. We should not nominate somebody who's almost 80 years old.
Okay. He's afraid to answer.
No, I'm not.
You have to either you're afraid or you're not listening.
No, it's not.
You don't want to hear the
Is he fit? No one can hear this. No one can hear you. They can't hear you. You finish and then you get it back.
All right. Look.
What is this, a few good men?
I'm a simple guy. Okay, I hear the question and I answer it.
Ooh,
is he
fit
or isn't he? I'll concede you're fit, Ron. You're a new generation. You're 44 years old. I wish I was still 44 years old. Okay?
45.
So, well, congratulations. I'd still take 45. Is he fit or isn't he? And this is the problem with my 3 colleagues. They're afraid to offend. And let me tell you something. If you're afraid to offend Donald Trump, then what are you going to do when you sit across from President Xi, you sit across from the Ayatollah, you sit across from Putin? You have to be willing to offend with the truth and answer the question.
Okay, listen. I promised Ron DeSantis a minute and not a full minute.
It is not about offending.
You can weigh in and then we're moving on.
It's about pointing out, do you want to elect somebody who will be older than Biden was when he went in 2021? I don't think he's as bad as Biden was at all, but I do think that over a 4-year period, it is not a job for somebody that's pushing 80. We need somebody that's younger. We need somebody that's going to be able to go in there and clean house on day one and do it for 2 terms. And I'll be able to
Here's
do
my
that.
issue with all 3 of my other colleagues on this debate stage.
Okay.
Is all 3 of them have been licking Donald Trump's boots for years for money and endorsements. Ron DeSantis, you've been a great governor, but you would have never been one without actually begging Donald Trump for that endorsement.
And you attacked him in your book a year ago.
Same thing with Chris Christie as a lobbyist, begging them for COVID money for his special interests in New Jersey, prepping him for the debates last time around. These people are now Monday morning quarterbacking some decision he made. I think the real enemy is not Donald Trump. It's not even Joe Biden. It is the deep state that at least Donald Trump attempted to take on. And if you want somebody who's going to speak truth to power, then vote for somebody who's going to speak the truth to you. Why am I the only person on the stage, at least, who can say that January 6th now does look like it was an inside job? That the government lied to us for 20 years about Saudi Arabia's involvement in 9/11? That the Great Replacement theory is not some grand right-wing conspiracy theory, but a basic statement of the Democratic Party's platform? That the 2020 election was indeed stolen by big tech? That the 2016 election, the one that Trump won for sure, was also one that was stolen from him by the national security establishment that actually put up the Trump-Russia collusion hoax that they knew was false? There's a reason why I'm the only person on the stage who can say these things. That's what it's going to take, not people who were licking his boots one time and now Monday morning quarterbacking and criticizing when it's convenient.
Governor Christie.
He's right on everything he said.
You do not favor a ban on trans medical treatments for minors, saying it's a parental rights issue. The surgeries done on minors involve cutting off body parts at a time when these kids cannot even legally smoke a cigarette. Kids who go from puberty blockers to cross-sex hormones are at a much greater likelihood of winding up sterile. How is it that you think a parent should be able to okay these surgeries, never mind the sterilization of a child? And aren't you way too out of step on this issue to be the Republican nominee?
No, I'm not. Because Republicans believe in less government, not more. In less involvement with government, not more in government involvement in people's lives. And you know what, Megan? I trust parents. And we're out there saying that we should empower parents in education. We should empower parents to make more decisions about where their kids go to school. I agree. We should empower parents to be teaching the values that they believe in their homes without the government telling them what those values should be. And yet we want to take other parental rights away. I'm sorry. As a father of 4, I believe there is no one who loves my children more than me. There's no one who loves my children more than my wife. There's no one who cares more about their success and health in life than we do. Not some government bureaucrat, not some. You look at these jokers down in Congress. It takes them 3 weeks to pick a speaker, and up until 2 days ago, they couldn't promote somebody in the military in the United States Senate who earned their new rank. And we're going to put my children's health and my decisions in their hands for them to make those decisions, for Joe Biden to make those decisions, for me and for my wife. Let me just say this. This is not something I favor. I think it's a very, very dangerous thing to do. But that's my opinion as a parent, Megan. And I get to make the decisions about my children, not anybody else. And every parent out there who's watching tonight, you start to turn over just a little bit of this authority, the authority they're going to take from you next, you're not going to like. I'll stand up for parents each and every time.
So there are laws banning smoking or drinking by a certain age.
Let me tell you something. I have a follow-up question for him, and you guys are going to get to weigh in. Okay, here's my follow-up question.
No way.
You talk about parental rights. Let's talk about them. When you were governor in 2017, you signed a law that required new guidelines for schools dealing with transgender students. Those guidelines required schools to accept a child's preferred gender identity, even if the minor's parents objected.
Not true.
And it said that there is no duty for schools to notify parents if their son or daughter changes their gender identity, allowing this serious issue to remain a secret between the school and a child. How is any of that pro-parental rights?
By the way, that's simply not true.
You're doing what you accuse me of, Chris. It is absolutely true.
That's simply not true. That's simply not true. That law was put into effect in 2018 and regulated in 2018 after I was out of office,
the guidelines.
Megan. No, we did not, Megan. We did not issue those guidelines, and you're wrong about that. Simply wrong. I have stood up each and every time.
So I think if this is one issue that's disqualifying, it's this one.
I stood up every single time for parents to be able to make the decisions for their minor children.
But parents...
Every single time, parents should make those decisions. And by the way, you know what? Every once in a while, parents are going to make decisions that we disagree with. But the minute you start to take those rights away from parents, you don't know that slippery slope, what rights are going to be taken away next, and what's going to be
as a parent, you do not have the right to abuse your kids. This is cutting off their genitals. This is mutilating these minors. These are irreversible procedures, and this is something that other countries in Europe, like Sweden, once they started doing it, they saw it did incalculable damage. They've shut it down. I signed legislation in Florida banning the mutilation of minors because it is wrong. We cannot allow this to happen in this country. And I know Chris disagrees with me, and I think he has an honest position. Nikki disagrees with me. She opposes the bill that we did to ban that. She said the law shouldn't get involved with it. You said the law shouldn't get involved with it. She also, though, I think, and this flows from what she did as governor of South Carolina, they had a bill to try to say that men shouldn't go into girls' bathrooms. And she killed that bill, and she bragged that she killed that bill. Even to this day, she bragged that. I don't think men should be going into little girls' bathrooms. I think it's wrong, and I think we have every right to protect them from that.
He is doing really good tonight.
I am going to come to you. I promise him seconds. Go quickly.
I think the North Star here is transgenderism is a mental health disorder. We don't let you smoke a cigarette by the age of 18. We don't let you have an addictive drink of alcohol by the age of 21. And I just challenge Ron DeSantis to go one step further and support what I think is clearly within the authority to do, using federal funds just like Reagan did in '84 for the Highway Act that said the minimum drinking age needs to be 21. We can do the same thing when it comes to banning genital mutilation or chemical castration.
Okay.
I know Ron's been unclear about that on the federal level. I'm crystal clear. That's where I stand.
Got it.
That's a mental health disorder. That's where we need to be at.
Go ahead.
So first of all, Ron has continued to lie because he's losing.
No, it's not a lie.
You are lying.
You said it on tape.
So first of all, I will say that when I was governor, 10 years ago, when the bathroom situation came up, we had maybe a handful of kids that were dealing with an issue. And I said, we don't need to bring government into this, but boys go into boys' bathrooms, girls go into girls' bathrooms, and if anyone else has an issue, they use a private bathroom. Now, 10 years later, we see that this issue has exploded. And this shows how hypocritical Ron continues to be. When he was running for governor and they asked him about that, he said he didn't think bathroom bills were a good use of his time. You can go look that up.
I signed a bathroom bill in Florida, so that's obviously not true.
So the idea that you would say that I was against
that. You didn't. You killed it. I signed it. I stood up for little girls. You didn't do it. And there was this going on. I was actually just in South Carolina. Some of the legislators told me at the time there were boys going into the girls. That's the whole reason why they did it. No. And so they say when she does that explanation that doesn't hold water. And this is the upstate of South Carolina.
Ron,
I signed the bill. I protected the girls.
Do you know South Carolinians?
She did not do it.
Do you know South Carolinians? Because South Carolinians... You are not going to talk about my state like that, because I will tell you for a fact, South Carolinians never allowed that to happen, and we did not have that issue at the time. What I have always said is boys go into a boys' bathroom, girls go into a girls' bathroom. But hold on one second. I also say that biological boys shouldn't be playing in girls' sports, and I will do everything I can to stop that because it's the women's issue of our time.
I signed legislation to protect women's sports. I actually get this stuff done.
You got it.
Thank you, guys. We're going to move on. Mr. Ramaswamy, when discussing your Hindu faith in September, you seemed to take a shot at Ambassador Haley, who is also Indian American and who converted to Christianity as an adult. You said, an easy thing for me to do, being a politician, is to shorten my name, profess to be a Christian, and then run. Make Vivek Vicky or whatever, end quote. Are you questioning Nikki Haley's Christian convictions? And why has your campaign made a point of referring to Ambassador Haley by her given first name, Nimarata, even though she's gone by Nikki for her whole life?
Well, my whole deal is if Nikki Haley, of all people, should know how to pronounce my name correctly, the rest of the news media can learn it. My deal is I'll call her Nikki when she can say my own name right. That's our little fun side bet there. Here's what I will say is deeper. I don't question her faith, but I question her authenticity. And I think that's deeper here. We were just talking about the trans issue. This is a symptom of a deeper cancer in American life, identity politics. This new religion that says your race, your gender, and your sexuality are your identity. It is anti-American. It is meritocratic. It's anti-meritocratic, and it is dividing this country to a breaking point. And I've spoken about this to the left. My books are all about this. I've preached this to the left, but it's even worse when Republicans try to play the same game. We're talking about that trans issue. And Nikki Haley's campaign launch video sounded like a woke Dylan Mulvaney Bud Light ad talking about how she would kick in heels. At the first debate, she said that only a woman can get this job done. That's what she said. After the third debate, when I criticized Ronna McDaniel after 5 failed years of leadership of this party and criticized Nikki for her corrupt foreign dealings as a military contractor, she said that I have a woman problem. Nikki, I don't have a woman problem. You have a corruption problem. And I think that that's what people need to know. Nikki is corrupt. This is a woman who will send your kids to die so she can buy a bigger house. This is the problem. Using identity politics more effectively than Kamala Harris is a form of intellectual fraud. And it actually needs to end. There's our donor puppet masters wielding their puppet right up here tonight. This is how this game is played. The puppet masters put up their puppet, and I reject the use of identity politics in this party. It has been a cancer coming from the left, and I'm sick and tired of the double standards. The people of this country are too. Having 2 X chromosomes does not immunize you from criticism.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Governor Haley, would you like to respond?
Oh, I bet she does.
It's not worth my time to respond to him.
You have been using identity politics at every step. She knows it's true, and that's why she's actually hiding from it.
Sir, we're not going to give you a response to the question that was to you.
Okay, we got to move on to this. Now, by arrangement with the Republican National Committee, we've got 2 questions for you about the Justice Department and our election system. Here's Tom Fitton with Judicial Watch. Governor Christie, this one's for you.
President Trump and many of his supporters claim federal law enforcement agencies have abused his civil rights for the last 8 years by, among other things, spying on him and now prosecuting him while having treated Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden with kid gloves. A recent Gallup poll shows that Americans think more highly of the U.S. Postal Service than they do the FBI or Justice Department. What would you do as president to restore the faith of the American people in these agencies?
Well, first off, I'm the only person on this stage who's actually done a job in the Department of Justice. I was the U.S. Attorney in New Jersey in the 5th largest office in this country, appointed by President Bush on September 10th, 2001. And it was an extraordinary time in this country to be on the front lines of fighting the greatest attack against our country since Pearl Harbor. And I'm proud of the 7 years I spent in the Justice Department. And one of the reasons I am is because I had an Attorney General when I came in named John Ashcroft. And John Ashcroft stood up and told each and every one of us our job was to do one thing, to make sure justice was done every day, regardless of partisanship, regardless of gender or race or any other consideration. And that's what we did for 7 years. And at a time when our country was at its greatest moment of danger in the last 40 years, we did exactly that, and there was not another domestic terrorist attack on this soil. So what I would do as president, having had that experience, and the only one who's had that experience, is to pick an attorney general who will absolutely do the same thing that John Ashcroft did, to pick U.S. attorneys who will only care about making sure that justice is done without regard to any other consideration but the facts that are presented and whether someone is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt and the government can prove it. We have had attorneys general like Eric Holder and Loretta Lynch and Jeff Sessions, and now our current attorney general, who have not met that standard. And the only way you restore people's faith in the justice system is to put someone like that in charge of the Justice Department, and then as president, to get the hell out of the way on anything that involves criminal investigations. If a president's involved in trying to do something and put their thumb on the scale, as Donald Trump says he will do, that makes people much less likely to believe our justice system can be fair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Governor DeSantis, this next one's for you. Back to Tom Fitton.
Many Republicans are concerned about the legitimacy of elections. A federal judge just ruled that Pennsylvania must count undated mail-in ballots, and unlike Alabama, many states still don't require any identification to vote. What should states do now to increase election integrity and voter confidence for the 2024 election?
Great questions.
Well, Tom, thanks for the question. Thanks for what you guys do at Judicial Watch. It's really, really important. There's a lot of corruption in this government. You guys are doing a great job. What you should do for election integrity is do what we did in Florida. 20 years ago, Florida and elections was a joke. Everybody would laugh at it. I came in, I removed a couple supervisors from South Florida. We require voter ID universal, no Zuckerbucks, no mass mail balloting, and no ballot harvesting. We even have an agency that prosecutes people for violating election laws. The result of that, in both 2020 and 2022, we counted millions and millions of votes on election night, produced the results, it was transparent, and everybody was happy. That is not happening throughout this country. But let me tell you this as the nominee. I think it's important. Not every state's where we need it to be. There is ballot harvesting in places like Nevada, all these places. I am not going to fight with one hand tied behind my back. I'm going to have organizations in all the swing states. If they're harvesting, we're harvesting. If they're Zuckerbucks, we're Zuckerbucks. We are going to exploit whatever the rules are. I favor changing the rules to be like Florida and some of the other states that have done a good job. But until then, we have to do that. And then just on the Justice Department and FBI. I mean, I remember being, in Iraq working with FBI on the ground and being, and then I was a special assistant. I used to have such a high regard for these agencies. What they did to Donald Trump with the Russia collusion was one of the biggest abuses of power in the history of our country. These agencies need to be cleaned out. With me, you'll have a new FBI director on day one. We're going to clear out the DOJ, the IRS, all these places. Buckle your seatbelts. There's going to be a new sheriff in town.
Thank you. All right, we got to do a quick break. We're going to come back in 1 minute. China up next.
All right, 8:26, and guys, who's the winner right now?
Well, first of all, what is Chris Christie getting the majority of the questions for? I mean, it's he's really. I mean, I'd like to clock on this, but he's got a lot of time, and
I don't think he has. Do you?
I do. I think he's been questioned. A lot of the questions, that for sure, in that last segment were his.
He's there for two reasons tonight:
rip on Trump. And number two.
And go after Ron DeSantis. It's funny because Vivek is going after Nikki, Christie's going after DeSantis, and Haley's just sitting there kind of taking it from everybody and just trying to rise above it all.
I will tell you this, Ron, and you know, Steve, you know that, Scott, you know that I am a big fan of Ron DeSantis. And if Trump isn't our guy, I hope it is Ron DeSantis. And Ron's performance tonight has been fantastic.
Well, he's doing what he needs to do. And the biggest strength he has is he can say exactly what he talked about in Florida there. What we should do in the rest of the country is what we have done in Florida.
That's what you said last debate. Exactly. And now he's doing it.
He's got the record. He can take any one of these issues except foreign policy and say, I'm going to tell you how we've done it in Florida, because Florida ranks number 1, 2, 3 in the country in just about every metric there is. There's a reason that people want to move to Florida. There's a reason why real estate taxes are high, because property values are high, because everybody wants to move there. He's playing in the last probably 2 or 3 segments here really strong. I don't know who's winning, but if I had to pick one, I'm a DeSantis backer. I'll admit that. But I think Vivek has just gone berserk here for some reason. He's taken himself out of anything
gasp. It looks terrible.
That's exactly, Scott. I think it is, he's watching his numbers drop and, okay, I gotta, you know what? I don't have a chance, so why not just let it all fly?
By the way, Dan just emailed, Donald Trump is winning this debate so far.
Oh, good. Well, that's a good call right there.
DeSantis is holding himself above the fray, but isn't making huge gains. If Nikki Haley knew 3 provinces in Ukraine, she would have named them. I thought that was a little silly, but whatever. I guess, she was the UN ambassador. Governor DeSantis' line about Europe, I think, was one of my highlights so far in this debate, because we don't follow.
Recap.
He said, look what's happened in Europe. You have more anti-Semitism in Germany than at any time since Adolf Hitler. Why? Because they've imported mass numbers of people who reject their culture. Europe is committing suicide. They are the blueprint for what is going to happen because of exactly what's happening at the border.
So DeSantis is right on the money.
100%.
Oh, I thought you said he wasn't. No, you're right. Yeah,
He's
when he
nailing
said
it.
that, it's like he's exactly right, and we're seeing it happen here. And
let me say one other thing.
Yeah,
if you care about the economy, if you care about the debt in this country, if you care about inflation and what's being done about it, you have been served a big giant nothing burger by this debate.
Yeah, not much.
Nothing. Come on. Talk tax cuts. Talk growing the economy. Talk about how you're going to bring down inflation. Talk about how you're going to, put in the economic prosperity that America had under Donald Trump. Tell me what you're going to do.
Well, we got a half hour left, gentlemen, in the debate. We know we're coming back to China, and we'll see how much time they spend on that. And hopefully we'll get some of that before time's up.
We're coming back out to our audience that is watching this with us here at the Flag Family headquarters as well, and 8,000 plus of you watching online and YouTube and sharing your comments from all over the place, by the way.
Thank you, everybody on YouTube watching us. Thank you. You're putting in Canada, all over the United States.
I've seen Brazil and Florida and Texas.
Jamaica
and
was
New
my
York,
favorite.
Jamaica. Welcome. Hola, ¿cómo está? Wherever you're from.
Yeah, you're
Thanks for being
Jamaican
with
us crazy, man.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Steve, any parting thoughts?
Any candidate who cannot stand on that podium and say chopping off a child's body parts is pure wrong should just walk off that stage right now.
Correct.
Yeah, I think
Definitely.
I think that ended any hope Christie's got of much of anything, to tell you the truth.
Got no hope.
And I'm not so sure that Nikki Haley has the right answers on this either. She has said some things recently that have made headlines, and she's not been asked about that. And I want to hear her have to defend herself on this and say where she stands. I don't want to hear him talking about like the laws that you did way back when, because you can massage that. I want to hear you say what I believe right now and how that should affect policy.
All right, let's go. Last leg.
More coverage brought to you by AFP of North Dakota. Let's go.
GOP presidential primary debate of 2023. We're going to talk about our college campuses.
Good.
Starting with you, Ambassador Haley. House Republicans yesterday hauled elite university presidents up to Capitol Hill to answer for the displays of anti-Semitism on college campuses. These leaders, including the president of Harvard, were asked whether calling for the genocide of the Jews would violate school policies against harassment and intimidation. All of them said it would depend on the context, including whether that speech veers into conduct. How do you think these schools and the rest of society should balance the imperative of free speech against the need to prevent radical activists from harassing and intimidating others?
It was disgusting to see what happened. You know, if this had been the KKK that was doing protests on those campuses, every one of those college presidents would have been up in arms. This is just as bad. The idea that they would go and allow that kind of pro-Hamas protest or agree with the genocide of Jews and try and say that they needed context on that, there is no context to that. This is what we need to do to deal with it. First of all, we have got to get foreign money out of our universities. You've got Arab money, you've got Chinese money, you've got others. We need to go to every university and say you either take foreign money or you take American money, but the days of taking both are over. The second thing we need to do is Biden made a mistake not including anti-Zionism in the definition of anti-Semitism. If you don't think that Israel has a right to exist, that is anti-Semitic. We will change the definition so that every government, every school has to acknowledge the definition for what it is. The third thing is we really do need to ban TikTok once and for all. And let me tell you why. For every 30 minutes that someone watches TikTok, every day, they become 17% more anti-Semitic, more pro-Hamas based on doing that.
What?
We now know that 50% of adults 18 to 25 think that Hamas was warranted in what they did with Israel. That's a problem. When campuses also don't go and protect when they have these rallies and you've got students that are scared, we need to go to these universities and say, if you're not going to protect these students, if you're not going to acknowledge anti-Semitism, we'll take your tax-exempt status away. That'll fix it, and that'll take care of it for good.
Staying with you, Ambassador Haley. On October 6th, The Israeli government thought it had a clear-eyed view of the threat from Hamas. In fact, according to the New York Times, it even had Hamas's attack plan and dismissed it as an aspiration. The Israelis were wrong. In our country, the FBI director told the Senate panel just yesterday that he sees, quote, blinking red lights everywhere, and that the threat level has, quote, gone to a whole nother level since October 7th. Which of the threats facing our country do you worry could blindside us?
What worries me and what keeps me up at night is what happens between now and Election Day while Joe Biden's in office. That's what worries me more than anything else. But I'll tell you that America right now is acting like it's September 10th. We better remember what September 12th felt like, because it only takes one. And whether you're looking at open borders that are allowing people to come in, Iran knows the easiest way to get to America is through the southern border, and we're not doing anything to stop it. We've got to get the foreign infiltration out of our country, whether it's in our schools, whether it's on our social media, whether it's we need to stop all foreign lobbying that's happening to members of Congress, and we need to start securing America again. Until we do that, we are going to be at threat. We've got to look at Iran, China, and Russia want to destroy the West. We have to start acting strong again. We've got to start protecting Americans. Right now, Americans don't feel protected, and we're not doing anything to strengthen it. So Joe Biden continues to be a problem. That'll change on Election Day.
It's our best answer of the night.
Governor DeSantis, if China invades Taiwan, would you send American troops, as President Biden has said he would do?
We will be able to deter that from happening. I think that's the important thing. We need a strategy of denial so that we're deterring Xi's ambitions.
What if it doesn't work?
It's going to work. Taiwan's an ally. We have longstanding American policy, and you know how that's done, and we will follow that. But here's the thing. Taiwan is important not just because of semiconductors. It's important because if China is able to break out of this first island chain, they're going to be able to dominate commerce in the entire Indo-Pacific. They will use that to export authoritarianism all around the world, including here in the United States. You look at some of these guys, actually some of them that are supporting Nikki on Wall Street, they grovel to China. Anytime something happens, they got to go do that. So they already exert a huge amount of authority over this country. It will get a lot worse. So deterring China's ambitions is the #1 national security task that I will do as president, and we will succeed. The 21st century needs to be an American century. We cannot let it be a Chinese century.
Mr. Ramaswamy,
I think we need to be
I'm
clear
coming
on,
to you
I'll
next.
be clear on the same issue, if I may.
I'm coming to you next on Taiwan. You said if you want to stop Xi from invading Taiwan, quote, let's open a branch of the NRA in Taiwan and put an AR-15 in the hands of every family and train them how to use it. That will give Xi a taste of American exceptionalism, end quote. The National Police in Taiwan announced a zero-gun policy last year. Is this a serious policy proposal? And if it isn't, why do you keep repeating it?
Well, it's part of a broader deterrence strategy. And so I think I'm going to respectfully disagree with Ron here. I think the next U.S. president needs to be crystal clear that, at least for the foreseeable future, the U.S. will absolutely defend Taiwan. And it is with that clarity that we actually achieve deterrence. But I have a broader strategy than that. We need to get on side in our relationship with India, take it to the next level. India has to be able to block the Andaman Sea, which is where China gets most of its Middle Eastern oil supplies. That's critical. I also do believe the Second Amendment is a critical way of preventing foreign autocrats from being able to. It's worked in America. Why wouldn't it work in Taiwan? So it is part of a broader strategy. But I do think that we need to be specific about our deterrence strategy, or else Xi Jinping is just encroaching by the day. And the reason why we're not doing it for China, I want to be crystal clear, is because we're scared. Why are we scared? Because we depend on them for our modern way of life. Why do we depend on them for our modern way of life? It's because Nikki Haley's latest friends like Larry Fink have created commingled economies with BlackRock telling Exxon and Chevron they can't drill here, while being a shareholder of PetroChina, not applying those same constraints in China. So it is our economic dependence on China that makes us scared. If that were a Russian spy balloon, we'd have shot it down in an instant.
That's right.
I
If that
love
were a
his brain.
Russian
He's
spy
got
base in Cuba, we'd be
wicked smart.
we'd be actually going hard on them instead of turning the other way as we are with China. So it comes back down to that economic dependence. We cannot depend on them for our pharmaceuticals, our semiconductors, and people have been lied to for a long time. Our own military, the F-35 jets that we make in this country, depend on China, and it's going to take an outsider to fix that broken establishment.
Thank you, Mr. Ramaswamy. Ambassador Haley, would you like to respond?
I mean, when it comes to China and Taiwan, the one way that we keep China from going into Taiwan is, one, make sure that we win in Ukraine, that we protect our friends, but also let China know that they'll be hell to pay if they go into Taiwan. They need to know that there is going to be a force that's going to go against them. And they need to know it's not just going to be the United States. That is why we need to build our partnerships with India, with South Korea, with Japan, with the Philippines, with Australia. We need to start pulling that alliance together. And the first way we do that is we need to make sure that on day one, we look at the fact, if China pulled the rug out from under us tomorrow, would we be ready? Think about what happened during COVID. Everybody told you to wear a mask. They were made in China. Everybody told you to take a COVID test. They were made in China. Everybody went and, I mean, everything that happened, if you go to the drugstore, all those medicines are made in China. We have to make sure that we are not relying on China for anything related to our national security, which means let's start focusing on doing deals with our friends now.
Thank you, Ambassador. Governor Christie, I'd like you to weigh in on that. And do you think arming every family in Taiwan with an AR-15 is a plausible policy?
You know, I don't think we have constitutional authority over Taiwan to give them a Second Amendment. I think they can only do that for themselves. But look, I want to be really clear. Once again, I want to play the role of actually answering your question, which is if China went after Taiwan, you're absolutely right. I would, as president, have us go militarily and defend them. Secondly, I'm not afraid, based upon those economic relationships, to do that, because these economic relationships mean nothing. Nothing. If what's going to happen is that China is going to come and act in that region of the world however they see fit. It's not right. And I'll say this about what I heard from Nikki earlier. She said that Donald Trump was good on trade. He wasn't. And the proof that he wasn't good on trade with China is that all he did was impose tariffs, which raised the prices for every American. You want to know what has contributed to inflation in this country? Yes, it's more government spending. Yes, it's the fact that we're printing too much money. Absolutely. But it is also the increase in prices that were driven by Donald Trump's tariffs. And one last thing. You can't say he was good on trade because he didn't change one Chinese policy in the process. He failed on it.
Thank you, Governor Christie. Governor DeSantis, switching subjects here. For 15 years, Republicans have been burned by politicians' promises to repeal Obamacare. Trump repeatedly promised to replace it with, quote, something terrific, but failed to propose anything. You're now promising something better, but Florida has more uninsured people than almost any other state. Why should Americans trust you more than any other Republicans who've disappointed them on this issue?
Well, I think we have millions of Americans who do not have access to affordable health care. And it's not just getting some type of card and Medicaid, because a lot of times they don't even get access to doctors. Do you actually get access to care? The other thing is we have millions and millions of people who don't have access to good doctors and good hospitals. Florida did not expand Obamacare. I think the states that did that, I think, are struggling financially. So that, yes, we declined to do that, and I don't think that that was the right policy to do. But we are going to go after the cost. You're paying too much for everything. We've actually addressed this in Florida in some ways, but you need price transparency. You need to hold the pharmaceuticals accountable. You need to hold big insurance and big government accountable, and we're going to get that done. I think it's very, very important economically. I think it's very, very important for the country that we get that done.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I actually wanted to, this is a very personal issue to our family. I wanted to take actually a minute to recognize my wife who's here today. Badass surgeon. She did a bunch of cases with cancer survivors earlier today, flew here to be tonight. We'll be back at 7 a.m. in Columbus, Ohio tomorrow, taking care of those patients in the OR. And on the front lines of people who have actually not swallowed for years. And here's something that's awful that's happening in our healthcare system. They'll pay for anything like feeding tubes, doctors to be pill pushers, but for the procedures that can actually make these patients better, we have a broken healthcare system that doesn't pay for it. My wife, Apoorva, in many cases, does not get paid for those procedures. She does them anyway because it's the right thing to do. But that does not work system-wide. So here's the answer. We don't have a healthcare system in this country. We have a sick care system. We need to start having diverse insurance options in a competitive marketplace that cover actual health, preventative medicine, diet, exercise, lifestyle, and otherwise. And here's how we deliver that. end the antitrust exemptions for health insurance companies. That's where the competitive marketplace begins.
Next
That's crony
question's for you.
capitalism, and that's the answer.
Okay, through Operation Warp Speed, the Trump administration and private industry developed a COVID vaccine in record time.
All right. Looks like we're having some technical difficulties. Our guys in Master Control there are working on it.
Yeah, the online stream through Rumble, which is our source tonight for this one, having a little bit of trouble there. So as we try to, Vivek, some good moments here recently. I love his conversation about the healthcare system. We don't have a healthcare system. We have a sick care system.
We do, yeah.
And that's 100% right. We need to start talking about prevention way more in this country than just talking about how to get somebody back in the hospital so we can try to take care of them again.
We also have to, we've got to get the price when it comes to prescriptions and just procedures are just so, Steve, they're so over the top in this country. It's just killing people. I mean, financially and literally.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of work to do on the healthcare system, and not just the physical care system, the mental health care system in the country as well. You're listening to coverage of the third presidential primary debate on the Republican side, and we're having a little bit of streaming difficulty through the streaming provider that is putting this out here tonight, and so
just bear with us.
We'll get this back here at some point, guys. I don't know if there's a way that we can run the audio feed. We maybe don't need the visuals at this point. If we can take the feed off of the off of another way, off the TV or the dish system, there's another way to do that.
Yeah, we've got about 15 minutes left in this debate. In the meantime, Scott, looks like you're ready to go talk to some folks. Might as well go have some fun with our live studio audience. See what they're thinking right now.
Say about the Operation Warp Speed there, but we end up with a little bit of a glitch. You hear it? You hear it okay out here? Do you?
All right, well.
All right, we're a little trouble on the... Yeah, exactly. We'll read what they say. Maybe do that. Let's get your opinions here. We're going to switch, guys, or should I keep going here? Michael, what do you think?
It's hard to summarize what just happened. I mean, I still think same thing with I mean, Vivek is obviously very scrappy tonight, to say the least. Christie's just got to go. I mean, it really needs to be down to these three if we're going to talk about the Plan B. Because Christie's just wasting time. I mean, some of the notes I took, he had problem with the DOJ question with Christie was that he believes in all the federal charges against Trump. He said that tonight, So I'm glad also in this segment that Vivek had the courage to state that the transgender issues are a mental disorder. There was a lot of head nods, a lot of agreement with that out here. I mean, I think that's fair game. And then the last thing I'll say is regarding Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley was saying, and she just said it a few minutes ago, we need to, quote, win in Ukraine when responding to the China question. What she won't say and what the Biden administration won't say is what is winning in Ukraine. Nobody will say that.
Yeah, and obviously that's a hot spot for Vivek for sure. Let's talk to some folks we haven't talked to yet. What do you think so far? What do you like? What don't you like?
Well, I think good deal for Nikki Haley. We should get her the chance.
You like Nikki Haley? How about you?
Nikki Haley have done a good job today because she also worked in the previous administration. She have experience and she's a woman. This is the first time we have a woman running.
Girl power.
Yes.
All right. I love it. All right, I'm going to go over this way here and see what we got from some other folks here that I haven't yet talked to. Give me your cliff notes on what you think so far.
I think Christie's is blocking for Nikki Haley, so she doesn't have to open her mouth tonight. And
is it a good thing when she opens her mouth, or a bad thing?
Well, she wouldn't be attacked by DeSantis and Ramaswamy so much if she wasn't such a flawed candidate. Yeah. She's done so much she's done enough to give them ammunition. Where I think that's what Christie's role is. I don't know if it's her financiers are keeping him in the race to do that. I mean, he's like the guy you put on the ice to draw the fouls, just to hit people and make them think before they do anything.
Do you think Nikki Haley has hurt herself tonight?
No, she's been able to be silent.
So she's getting through unscathed, you think?
She's getting through unscathed.
Okay. Sounds good. What's your take, my friend?
I think DeSantis has done pretty good. From any of them, I haven't heard anything about the debt. I think that's probably one of the biggest problems we have. I mean, we got to figure out the debt. If we can't figure out the debt, we can't do anything else anyway.
What do you think of the questions overall? I agree with you. We should have more on the debt, maybe a little more on inflation, but are they hitting the right topics that you're concerned about?
I mean, they're important topics, but I think they're designed more to foster, like we've seen.
Food fight,
yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, sounds good. What do you think?
I would like to see some more real questions, not the food fight generating questions.
What would you ask if you were there?
What are you going to do to get inflation under control and reverse this?
Yeah, how many, show of hands here, how many people paid more this year for their Thanksgiving meal than they ever have before? Yeah, I mean, off the charts, ridiculous. So I agree with you. I think that's a kitchen table issue that we got to get under control and see how they're doing. Check back in over here with this gentleman who's got a sporty little Star Wars shirt today. How we doing?
I'm also not liking the food fight thing. I think you could easily get rid of Vivek and Governor Christie and have just the two in the middle. I'd like to see the questions be to both of them so we can hear, how each one looks at a question and how they differ from each other. I'm not getting. I mean, they're okay answers, but I'm just not getting the meat.
Can you imagine Donald Trump on the stage with Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis? Who would win that three-way battle, do you think? You can't talk? You got a sore throat? What do you think?
Well, probably Trump would win it, but he goes out, he goes after him. I think he would, but
we've had some people say Trump is winning tonight by not being there. You agree with that?
I don't know, maybe.
What's your highlight so far? What sticks with you as the most pressing issue that got raised and the most important thing you take away from this so far? Anything?
I just like watching DeSantis and come out of his shell a little bit more.
Yes. How many people think DeSantis is winning tonight? Ron DeSantis winning this race, yeah. 3/4 of you thinking that DeSantis is winning. All right, back to the fellas here, and then we'll get back to the debate shortly.
We're back to the debate.
45 seconds for this last one. Governor Christie, we're going to start with you. Which former president would you draw inspiration from for your own presidency, and why?
Can we talk about inflation or the border or something that matters? Come on.
I've spent a lot of time writing a book about President Reagan that's going to be called What
Chris
Would Reagan
Christie
Do?
Again.
That book's going to come out early in 2024. And what I learned more than anything else was that Ronald Reagan was a slave to the truth. Ronald Reagan stood up for the truth, whether it was popular or unpopular at the moment. In 1964, he stood up against the John Birch Society when it was very unpopular to the party to do it, but he would not put up with our party standing for lies and deceit, even it gave him political progress. That's the kind of president that I will be, and I would draw that inspiration from the 40th president of the United States, Ronald Reagan.
Ambassador Haley?
Well, I have to say, too, I think George Washington, when you look at the responsibilities he had of how do you go and take on this great American experiment and make sure that the people are protected. And they always knew that government was intended to secure the rights and freedoms of the people. It was never meant to be all things to all people. And then you look at Abraham Lincoln, and you look at the challenges, and you look at the division that happened in our country, and the ability to lead in spite of the loud noises and say, what will bring out the best in people to get us to go forward is always something that's important. And I think we need that now more than ever.
Governor DeSantis.
Reagan, Washington, Lincoln, excellent. One of the guys I'll take inspiration from is Calvin Coolidge. Now, people don't talk about him a lot. He's one of the few presidents that got almost everything right He understood the proper role of the federal government under the Constitution. We need to restore the U.S. Constitution as the centerpiece of our national life. And that requires a president who understands the original understanding of the Constitution, who has a good sense of the Bill of Rights, and who knows how we've gone off track with this massive fourth branch of government, this administrative state which is imposing its will on us and is being weaponized against us. So Silent Cal knew the proper role of the federal government. The country was in great shape when he was president of the United States, and we can learn an awful lot from Calvin Coolidge.
Over to you, Mr. Ramaswamy, to conclude our history lesson.
Sure. Well, I will say Ron picked a president who was born on July 4th. I'll pick one who died on July 4th. It's Thomas Jefferson. He was 33 years old when he wrote the Declaration of Independence, and you all are sitting on a swivel chair today. He invented the swivel chair while he was at it, while writing that Declaration of Independence. That's that founding spirit that we miss, that we're the pioneers, we're the explorers, the guy who sent him out on the Lewis and Clark expeditions. And I think a lot about what would Thomas Jefferson say to today's Republican Party. And I think one thing he'd remind us of, we haven't talked about it as much tonight, but I think it is one of the interesting ideological discussions we're having in our party is freedom of speech. You get to express your mind freely no matter how heinous the opinion. Thomas Jefferson understood that.
All right.
He's an inspiration for me.
Thank you, Mr. Ramaswamy. And believe it or not, it's time for closing statements. Governor Christie, would you like to begin?
Sure, thank you. I want you all to kind of picture in your minds Election Day. You'll all be heading to the polls to vote, and that's something that Donald Trump will not be able to do, because he will be convicted of felonies before then, and his right to vote will be taken away.
Wow, you got a crystal ball.
You know, look, here's the bottom line. You can boo about it all you like and continue to deny reality. But if we deny reality as a party, we're going to have 4 more years of Joe Biden. When my colleagues here raised their hands and said they would support him even if he was a convicted felon, the bigger problem with it is they were confirming the lies he's told to the American people. If you're too timid to take on Trump, believe me, others will see that timidity. Xi, Putin and the Ayatollah, the border crossers on the southern border, and the criminals in our streets. They'll sense that timidity, and they'll take advantage of that failure of leadership. We need to get back to an old American idea that every person is responsible for their own conduct, even a president. I'll be the kind of president who has the humility that knows that you work for the people. It's not the other way around. I will earn your trust. I want to earn your vote.
Thank you, Governor Christie. Mr. Ramaswamy?
I'll use this to just address a topic we didn't talk about tonight, but I think is one of the most important topics that needs to be discussed. That is this climate change agenda that is shackling this country like a set of handcuffs. I said it at the first debate, and I stand by it. The climate change agenda is a hoax because it has nothing to do with the climate. That's what we have to see. 98% reduction in the climate disaster-related deaths in the last century. 8 times as many people are going to die of cold temperatures this year than warm ones. Yet against that backdrop, there's an issue coming up in Iowa. It's core to Iowa farmers. I met Kim Junker, Kathy Stockdale, and other farmers who are about to have a carbon capture pipeline built across their land using eminent domain to do it. That's unconstitutional and it's wrong. And if you thought COVID was bad, what's coming with this climate agenda is far worse. We should not be bending the knee to this new religion. That is what it is. It is a substitute for a modern religion. We are flogging ourselves and losing our modern way of life, bowing to this new god of climate, and that will end on my watch.
Thank
it's
you,
the most critical
Ambassador
issue
Haley.
that's coming up. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our country is in chaos. We see it on the southern border. We see it on our streets in our cities. We see it on college campuses. We feel it with our economy, with inflation and with debt. And we feel it around the world with wars in Europe and within the Middle East. We have to stop the chaos, but you can't defeat Democrat chaos with Republican chaos. And that's what Donald Trump gives us. My approach is different. No drama, no vendettas, no whining. I envision an America where we're protected from illegal immigration and Chinese infiltration. I envision an America where we unleash our economy and we reject socialism. But more importantly, I envision an America where we rediscover our national purpose and our pride.
Thank you.
I crushed Joe Biden in the polls. And if you give me this chance, we will crush him in November and take our country back.
Governor.
Go to NikkiHaley.com.
Thank you, Ambassador Haley.
Pretty good close. That was solid.
Governor DeSantis.
We are in jeopardy of being the first generation of Americans to leave to our kids and grandkids an America less prosperous and less free than the one we inherited. I refuse to sit idly by and let that happen. But we got to have people that are going to be willing to fight the people that are doing this to us. You can't be these establishment Republicans that just cave at the first sign of opposition. I'll fight for you. We also need to win again as a party. Yes, win the election, which we've struggled to do, but also win on these big issues. And nobody has defeated these people more than what I have done in the state of Florida on issue after issue. We have won, and we have won big, and that's what we'll do for you. We also need leadership. Leadership is not about doing what's easy. It's about being willing to set out that vision, knowing they're going to shoot arrows at you. They're going to come at you. I will fight the good fight. I will keep the faith, and I will finish the race. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you, all of you.
Thanks to all of you. Thanks for watching. Thank you, guys.
There we go. There you go. Number 4 in the books, guys. What'd you think?
Well, can I say what I think I have said after every one of these debates?
Do it, Steve.
Why can we not have all 4 candidates answer the same question and then let them question each other on what the candidate just said? These events are so painful to me because we skip around. We'll ask this question to this person, go a different direction to that, and who knows what the criteria is for letting someone else jump in and question you and how they're going to give that time. These events, they fall so short of what they could be. This is not hard, but nobody wants to do it. The NBC people did probably as good a job as any. Why can we not talk about energy policy? Why can we not talk about climate change? Thank goodness Vivek brought it in at the end, or nobody would have talked about the climate jihad that is arresting our country every single day. Why can we not ask these candidates, how do you lower taxes? What is your plan for the southern border? How specifically, you're president tomorrow, what are you going to do to stop the tide of trafficking and drugs and illegal people coming in? Why can we not ask these questions? How do we address the mental health crisis in our country, or rising crime? We spend so much time. Tell me about a president that you like. I don't care that you like Reagan or Coolidge, and those were all fine answers. It doesn't matter to me today.
All right, let me stop you right there, Steve Hallstrom. Scott Hennen, you know everybody in the political world. You know people. Get Steve in front of the right person so Steve can moderate one of these debates and just let him run it. Steve, you'll have your shut-off button. You'll have your
look at the applause. Right. Look at the applause from the audience there. They agree. I mean, come on.
Steve's right on the money.
I'm no genius, but don't we all feel the same way? I mean, this isn't rocket science, people. This is just, I want to know what these candidates stand for, not who can deliver the best one-liner or the zinger. I want to know what your answers are to fix the stuff that we struggle with in this country today, and we never get these things from these debates.
That's why sister. Flyover country has the answer here. We really do.
No, Steve.
America.
Hold on. Steve's been harping about this all debate season, and every time I get done watching a debate, I go back to myself and go, damn, Hallstrom is dead on the money. We're getting nothing out of these except, like you said, we're getting zingers and screaming at each other and maybe a little nugget. And I will give Chris Christie credit for this. When he's calling these other candidates out and saying, look, answer the question. And that's his prosecutor in him. But he's right. Answer the question. Quit dancing around it. Answer it. Go ahead, Scotty.
I'm sick of Chris Christie.
I am too.
He's going nowhere. He doesn't belong on the stage. It's just dumb. And Vivek Ramaswamy, smart guy, no doubt about it. I think a little too eager and probably hurt himself more than he helped himself tonight, despite some decent answers. But I think his star is fading. The 15 minutes are almost up.
Yep.
And we're really back to DeSantis and Haley. And you know what? I just think of all the talent of the Republican Party, of all the conservative stalwarts out there, I don't know how we end up with Ron DeSantis, who great resume, terrible, what you need, charisma and coming off. Nikki Haley, like she came out of a petri dish of politics.
Yeah,
I mean, just like the perfect,
I'm not a Haley
everything's
fan.
right. So I don't know. I mean, just to me, Donald Trump's the big winner tonight.
All right, 701-271-1100. And I've been so encouraged to see on our YouTube stream comments and on our website comments the number of places people are weighing in from. Thank you very much. We're seeing Brazil. We're seeing Florida. We're
Canada.
seeing Canada. We're seeing Europe. We're seeing people from all over, and we love it. You, no matter where you are right now, you can call us in the good old USA at 701-271-1100 and let us know what you heard tonight, what you liked, what you wanted to hear that you didn't, and what is your position on where these candidates stack up. And if there's someone that you thought helped themselves tonight, we would love to hear from you. We'll stick around as long as you want to talk. This is all about you. We are coming together as an extended family, no matter where you are, across North Dakota, the Midwest, the U.S., or wherever, because we are all on the same team. And that is, we've got to beat the guy who's in office right now. Any one of these people would be better. We don't have everybody a serious candidate on that stage tonight, but any one of them would be light years better. So what do you want to see happen? And if you are a Donald Trump supporter, why do you feel like he is uniquely positioned better than any of these other people? Not just because he was there once before, but why do you think he is the right guy for today? Not 4 years ago or 8 years ago, today.
All right, let's one more time, 701-271-1100. That will get you on with us. Don't care where you're calling from. What did you think? Like Steve said, what did you think? Who's winner? Who's loser? What really ticked you off tonight? What made you go, wow, that was a great comment. Let's get to the phones right now. Hey, Mark, welcome to the program. You're up. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from California.
Brother, how are things in California? I think I know the answer, but go ahead.
Ridiculous and expensive in major proportions.
All right, brother. What did you think tonight?
I'm going to comment on something completely different, but I got to get it out there because I've sent it to the Epoch Times. I think we need to build 3 canals from the Gulf of Mexico to the Pacific Ocean. One of them is a military-only canal so we can get our military back and forth between 2 oceans. The second one would be a desalinated water agriculture and manufacturing canal where we could build all kinds of stuff and irrigate the land. And the third would be a substitute to the Panama Canal where you could have international travel between 2 oceans and you could pay off the national debt with the revenue.
Wow.
Mark, you've been thinking.
Yeah,
Yep.
no kidding.
Appreciate the...
an engineer.
Yeah, we can tell, brother. Yep. We can tell. Well, God bless you for listening and following along with us tonight. Thanks for giving us some good stuff to think about. We're going to let you go. As Scotty's working the crowd out here, Scott, let's hear from these fine folks and give them an opportunity to weigh in right now. Take it away, Scott.
And then we have full
lines. So we're out front with the crew that has been watching all night, and I see we lost a few. I wonder if that's a sign of, I need to go to work in the morning so I want to sleep, or this debate put me to sleep. I'm not sure what. Here's a question I have for everybody here. If you had to vote today for Republican presidential candidate 2024, who gets the vote? After everything you've seen tonight, seen so far in these debates, what do you think?
Donald Trump.
Have you ever wavered from Donald Trump? You got to say yes or no.
Have I what?
Ever wavered? Ever kind of, has he just been the candidate all along for you?
Yeah, all along.
Interesting. Who gets your vote tonight?
DeSantis.
All right. What do you think?
You got to beat the man to be the man, so Trump.
Still Trump. Is he the big winner tonight, you think?
I mean, nobody on the stage was. I've got 3-4-year-olds at home, and I haven't seen tantrums like that.
Is that not fun to watch? Trying to glean who you're for?
It's entertaining, but it's not informative. I want the debate to be informative so I can make a good choice.
Who'd you vote for?
I'm a DeSantis guy.
He helped himself tonight?
I think he did. I think he made some headway. This, a little bit more animated. I mean, he still could use some work in the charisma department, but I think he came out stronger this time than I've seen him in the previous debates.
Interesting. If you had to vote today, who'd it be?
I'd say Ron DeSantis.
Who won this debate?
I'd probably say Ron DeSantis as well.
Anything stick out as a topic you were glad to hear about tonight?
His taxing the money going back to
their home countries was an interesting idea.
It is, yeah. That's how you pay for the wall, he said. So that was interesting. Who won?
Nikki.
Would Nikki get your vote?
Yes, because what we are going through right now and how the work that needs to be done in the whole United States, Nikki will win the people's heart.
Okay, that's a bold proclamation there. How about you, sir? Who would you vote for today?
The same lady, Nikki.
Go, Nikki, go?
Go, Nikki, go.
All right, that sounds good. I'm not keeping a tally here. Somebody else will have to be in charge of that. But what do you think? Who would you vote for now?
I would vote for Nikki. I like the way, and it's not because of this. The debate was a sport. It wasn't a debate. I mean, I like she's got a lot of foreign policy experience. She's got a lot of domestic experience, and she stayed above the fray here, which is, I guess, the best you could expect.
Who on that stage tonight would have the best chance, in your view, to beat Joe Biden or Gavin Newsom or whoever else they throw at us?
Oh, any one of them would be better than those two.
Absolutely, but who'd be the best to beat? If it wasn't Trump, who on that stage do you think would be the best to take on Biden?
I still think it'd be Nikki Haley. I think she would wipe the floor with those guys.
Did she elevate herself tonight? Come back a little bit even? What do you think?
No, I think she elevated. I mean, I think I said staying above the fray is in this kind of circus thing is actually a very strong point for me.
Very interesting. All right, who'd you vote for after watching tonight? If you had to vote tonight, who'd get it?
I'd still go with Nikki Haley.
Still going with Nikki Haley. How about
Nikki
you?
Haley,
Well, I'm
folks.
going with Donald Trump.
Why?
Because he is going after the deep state.
Hang on, callers.
And they're going after him.
Yeah. Ron DeSantis seemed to take that tonight, too, and he actually gave Donald Trump some credit for that. Remember that? Yeah. For taking after the deep state? You vote today, who do you vote for?
DeSantis.
Over Trump, even?
Yeah.
Thinking I like Ron DeSantis and I want to see some more tonight, or were you on the fence, or how'd you come in?
I like DeSantis.
You're just in the DeSantis camp, rock solid. How about you, ma'am?
Ron DeSantis.
And what's your overall impression of the debate tonight?
I like what he had to say tonight. I'm glad that he was able to express himself a little bit better. He still needs to work on getting himself out there and telling his story about what he's accomplished in Florida. He's done some awesome things in Florida, and I think his campaign needs to back him on that and educate the people and say, this is what Ron DeSantis is all about, and this is what Ron DeSantis can do for the country.
Very well said. If you raise your hand if you were disappointed tonight and just feeling a little lackluster overall in the debate. About half of us, yeah. You had to vote today, sir. Who are you voting for?
DeSantis. I think it's more important to have an 8-year, 2 consecutive terms than a one-term lame duck president. And the last time we had a vice president or the same party win was when George H.W. Bush won after Reagan, and he lost after one term. Everyone's lost after one term, either lost the party after being the outgoing president. So the best way to get reelected is to be an incumbent. So we should elect someone who can be an incumbent for an 8-year term president.
That's solid, no doubt about it. What if Trump said, DeSantis be my running mate, and we're going to run on a 12-year plan?
Well, that could work. But like I said, the last time that happened was with Bush, and Garcia made read my lips. But it could work if it's a successful term. The last time Trump got in office, his problem was bad advisors like Christie being submarined by everybody else, having an entrenched swamp, the FBI, the DOJ, everybody hindered him. And then he had Boehner, and then he had Paul Ryan, who didn't help him a bit in Congress.
You're right. I talked to the president this week. We interviewed him on the air. How many people heard that interview? Yeah, we talked to him and Kevin Kramer as well. And one thing Trump said very clearly was, I'm not listening to rhinos next time on who to put in my administration. So he certainly has learned his lesson there. What do you think of the debate tonight?
A lot of mudslinging, but still would say I'm still in the DeSantis camp.
Okay, how about you?
My heart says Trump, but my gut says DeSantis will have to be it.
Very interesting. Very, very interesting. Well, thank all of you for coming, being part of this. Justin, I'm just going to get a quick cherry on top of this, and we're going to get back to the phones at 701-271-1100. So just give us the final word on, if you had to vote today, who do you vote for?
Well, if it's today, I'd say Trump. But I will say this to every conservative and every Republican listening is I am not a never anybody. Whoever we put up, anybody on this stage or anybody else that's conservative, unless you want 4 more years of Biden or 4 more years of what we have right now, you vote for them and like it.
Wow.
How about some big applause tonight for all of you? Well done. And also for that great meal, thanks to AFP and Andrew Nias and their team. Thank you very much. That was awesome. You guys are great. We'll see you next time. Let's go back to the phones, boys.
All right, let's do it. Let's go to Tracy. Tracy's been waiting the longest. Hey, Tracy, welcome to the program. Where are you calling from?
Well done.
Okay, I'm going to put Tracy on hold. Let's go to Robert. Robert, welcome to the program. Where are you calling from?
Florida.
Hey, all right. Florida, the free state of Florida. Robert, what did you think?
I didn't like any of the 4 of them. They all 4 have a measure of anti-whiteism. And to say that we should be watching out for Israel, that's nice. Saying watching out for other people, that's nice. No one stood up to protect whites from anti-whiteism. They all either cowered from that or don't like whites or white well-being. They definitely didn't work for white well-being, and a lot of them worked for anti-whiteism.
All right, that's lovely. All right.
Go ahead. What is he?
Steve.
Is he still with us?
Anti-whiteism.
Yeah, I know he's gone.
Well, give me your evidence of what you saw tonight that said Nikki Haley was anti-white people. You can come on and say whatever you want.
Yep.
We are a non-judgmental zone here, but you got to be able to back up what you say with evidence of what you say. You can't just throw fire and not expect to have to give a backup to what you said.
To defend the caller, I think what they're saying is that the racism in this country, if you had to actually define racism for what it is directed more at white people than it is in any other minority in the country.
That's fair, but that's not what he said.
No, that's not what he said.
Yeah, I think he was saying they didn't stand up enough to that. But I don't know what anti-whiteism is. I guess.
Ryan, welcome to the program. Where are you calling from, Ryan? We're not hearing the calls in here. Is the pod down? There we go. Let's try it again. Ryan, are you there?
I'm here. Yeah, I'm calling from Los Angeles.
Oh, another one from California. L.A., man. All right. How are things treating you?
Unfortunately.
What'd you think, Ryan?
I thought overall kind of the same old from the first 3 candidates. So, Governor Christie, I agree with you guys. Shouldn't even be up there. Nikki Haley, she's just contradicted herself and right over a petri dish, I feel like. Governor DeSantis, I'm for DeSantis, but lacks the charisma, I believe, to get the unison of the votes here this November.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of Vivek. But there are some flaws there as well. It's a little bit too eager. But that's my feedback on the group.
Do you think he went over the top tonight? Do you think Vivek went over the top tonight?
I don't know. Honestly, I think you need some stern communication and some targeting to gain some of the traction in this race. I don't know if it's over the top. I think just what some of the adverse reactions towards him are the deshambling of the institutional presence that we have now, right? When you get into the DEA, the ATF, all these institutional bodies that are just set in stone, no changes, people working from home, making $200,000 a year, not doing anything. I think it's going to take someone of that sort of ideology in order to make change in this country. So I'm a late 30s conservative, like I said, out here in the loony land of California. But I just don't see any sort of change from any one of these candidates besides Ron DeSantis and Vivek Ramaswamy.
Do you think?
Do you guys agree with that?
Do you guys? I want to ask you this: do you think Gavin Newsom, your governor, ends up in this race?
You know what? I think I do. I mean, with him even going to the stage with the debate on public television, I think that's an indicator. Yeah. But this is a broken state. I don't know what premise or plot he could run on. The largest state economically, fiscally in.
He just lies about it. Right? It's easy. He just lies about it, just like he did with the.
He just lies,
DeSantis.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I think he'll just lie his way until Joe Biden croaks or Michelle Obama pulls out, and then they have to put someone in play.
Well, Ryan, I've said this for a long time. Your governor out there, that guy scares the hell out of me. He reminds me of Damien's father in The Omen. He's just a smooth, slick, scary dude, and a lot of people in the country, they don't follow politics close enough, they just see this guy that one person said earlier this evening that looks like he just walked off a Hollywood set. He's got the look, he's got the charisma, and I think he could charisma his place in politics pretty high. The guy scares me. Steve, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I would agree with you, Jay, except you and I sat here and we watched that debate with Newsom and DeSantis, and Newsom basically could not defend the record in his state. And so you're right. He's smooth-talking, good-looking guy, but in the end, you're going to have to answer questions about what you have done as a public servant, and he does not have a track record. And no matter how smooth he tried to be that night, he didn't have a leg to stand on, and people will see through that sooner or later.
They didn't see through it. They didn't see through Biden. They did.
That's what
He's
scares me about
president. Biden didn't have, Obama did not have a track record to put up.
I said, Biden.
Biden. Okay.
Yeah, Biden, because we know he's really running things.
Well, either way, neither of them had a track record that you could measure. Both Newsom and DeSantis did in that case.
We have a statement from the Trump camp. The battle for second place has become the biggest waste of time, money, and energy that politics has ever seen. These candidates are putting up a fake fight to satisfy their egos and please their billionaire puppet masters. It's beyond time for Republicans to do what's best for the country, unify around President Trump, so we can maximize our use of time, money, and energy against Joe Biden and the Democrats.
Okay, so first of all, what else is he going to say? Right? In other news, water is wet.
I kind of agree. I mean, he's the nominee.
Okay, so what is it going to accomplish to say, everybody drop out and give Donald Trump all of your money and all of your time and energy? The people that are supporting Ron DeSantis aren't necessarily going to throw their money behind Donald Trump.
He doesn't need any money.
Well, I'm just saying, then why ask for it?
He's not asking for it.
Yes, he is. That's exactly what he's doing.
No.
And he says, let's consolidate all of the time, the energy, the money behind all this. What energy is being expended here that can't be recovered later? This is just Donald Trump doing what Donald Trump does, wants to make it all about him. And look, if I were him, I would too. But just because Donald Trump calls for it doesn't mean anybody else has to do it.
Ryan, appreciate the phone call listening behind the Iron Curtain out there in L.A. 701-271-1100 is the number. So you folks listening around the country in Crystal and Florida, you're going to be next. And we got Kevin, we got Tracy, and we got an open line. If you call now, you'll get in. Just so you know, I want to introduce you to everybody. The voices you hear Scott. His name is Scott Hennen, and he has a show called What's on Your Mind on AM 1100 The Flag out of Fargo, North Dakota, and it's from 8:30 to 11 Monday through Friday Central Standard Time. And if you want to hear real conservative radio and hear the big players, yesterday he had Donald Trump hanging out with him on the show.
You might have heard of him.
You can get the AM 1100 the app, AM 1100 The Flag the app, or you can listen at am1100theflag.com. Just go to the App Store, get the app. You can also go to your smart device and just say, hey, play AM 1100 The Flag, Alexa or Siri. The next voice you hear is Steve Hallstrom. He is also AM 1100 The Flag. He has a Steve Hallstrom show, and he is conservative as well. He's on from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m., and that is Central Standard Time. You can do the same thing to listen to the Steve Hallstrom show. My name is Jay Thomas. I work on our other station. It is 970 WDAY Radio. I am on from 2 to 5 in the afternoon Central Standard Time. I will tell you this, I am not big on politics on my show, but when I do touch on it, we joke that I belong to what we call the garage party. We just sit around a garage, drinking beer, smoking cigars, and just talking politics like guys would. That's my show. And while I'm plugging everything, I have a national show called Rides with Jay Thomas. It is a car show that it is in 47 million homes in this country. You can check it out. Also, you can find us on Facebook. You can find us all on Google. I just wanted folks to know who we are. And we're based out of Fargo, North Dakota.
Yeah, let me just say, even though Jay's show is not overtly political, it's a show all about common sense and applying reasonable thinking principles to issues that affect all of us. And in our community, we deal with the same things that everybody else does. We deal with immigration. We deal with homelessness. We deal with rising taxes. Just had a big issue, a big municipal facility just got voted down on a tax measure yesterday, and so that's what Jay and his crew talks about each day.
I'm very proud of the fact that we have an extremely loyal audience, folks in North and South Dakota and Minnesota who some of whom were with us tonight in the debate watch party, and we've done 4 of these now to hear from folks what they think, not pundits, not news folks and everything
just
else.
everyday Americans.
And so the more the merrier. If you want to join that way of thinking, we appreciate you. Craig says a note, why did Scott bypass the younger guy at the table by the Christmas tree? He passed him 3 times and talked to everyone but him. Why? I thought I talked to everybody.
I thought you talked to everybody, too.
I couldn't see.
If I did that, it was unintentional. But the young guy I remember by the Christmas tree, I think I talked to. But
all right,
last comment before we go back to the phones.
Yeah.
Yes, we're in Fargo tonight, Fargo, North Dakota. You might be in California. You might be in New York. You might be Brazil or wherever else people have been watching. Tonight, you're part of our family, and you're part of this local program because we're all fighting the same battle here, so we'd love to hear from you tonight.
All right, let's do it. Down to Florida. I believe it's Krista. Krista, welcome to the program.
You passed him 3 times and talked to everyone but him. Why? I thought
got a delay problem there.
If I did that,
all right. When you put them on, I'm going to have you do this. Just tell them, hey, they're going to have to turn their device down and listen through their phone. So we'll get back to her. Let's go to Kevin. Kevin, where are you calling from?
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
Yeah, I'm calling from Oregon.
From where?
From the state of Oregon.
All right.
Oregon. Oh, boy.
All right.
You're only conservative out there.
Yeah. All right, Kevin, what'd you think tonight?
Well, I thought none of them really impressed me. They didn't talk about, like the one gentleman was saying, nothing that I thought really, mattered. They should have asked him tougher questions about stuff that's going on now, about taxes, or how nobody can afford to live and all this kind of stuff. But I got an idea that I think ought to be put to the people that run for president.
What is it?
And this is something that Kennedy had the Corps of Engineers look into when he was in office. It was the NAWAPA, North American Water Alliance Power. And that was a project that would capture all the flood water from the top of Alaska all the way down into Mexico. They would put in, they had one spur that goes clear over to the Great Lakes. They would have like 32 hydroelectric dams and large pumping stations to capture all the flood water and put it out into all the dry land that they say is useless and that we can't use. They would put it in reservoirs, and we would be able to use all this land, and then we could have a lot more people with nice places to live. And I think that that would be a good project because it would bring the United States, Canada, and Mexico together, give us like 20 million jobs, high-paying jobs, people building the canals, building the pumps, running the equipment, building housing, a very large project. It would probably take a couple of terms for any president to get it in. But I think it would be a marvelous thing. It would bring our countries together instead of separating our countries.
Sounds good.
All right.
Kevin, thanks. We got the civil engineers out working tonight on this program. This is fantastic. Water Management 101 coming from.
Let's see if we've got
folks tuned in here. That opens up a phone line for you at 701-271-1100.
Let's try Krista again in Florida. Krista, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
There you go. Turn it down. Listen to us over the phone. What'd you think tonight, Krista?
Well, I didn't catch all of it, but what I did see was pretty much the same stuff I've seen in the previous debates. So I am in the DeSantis camp, but I do have an opinion on everybody who's currently supporting Trump.
Okay.
I voted for Trump both times, but I think we need to consider, okay, all of the baggage that he brings. He'll be a lame duck president. There are a lot of people out there who just don't like him.
Yep.
Okay, and I vote issues. I don't care if what your personality is. I vote the issues, and I'm not a single issue voter. But I would like to see, and I know it's a dream. Trump will not step down. But I do think that we have a lot of young up-and-comers on that stage, Ron DeSantis, Nikki Haley, that we need to invest in, and we need to give them the opportunity to lead. You know, there are also a lot of people out there who don't want the old guys anymore.
Yep.
And, you know, so everybody out there who's considering Trump, yes, I agree with what he wants to do. Close the border, make us energy independent. DeSantis wants to do the same. So does Haley. But, you know, we need to consider all of the baggage, all the adversity that he would bring to another term.
Krista, if he is the nominee, there's a good chance he's going to be. Will you vote for him?
I will have yes, I will vote for him.
Steve?
I will vote for him.
Krista, thanks. Maybe we'll let Krista go. And
okay. We'll respond. Krista, good comments.
We're going to respond to this. Let's talk about this for a minute, guys. And callers, hang on. We're going to get you in as soon as we can. This is a question I ask myself a lot too. Is Donald Trump could run away with the primary and lose the general by a significant margin. Now, recent polling shows that Trump is faring better than Biden in many states, especially in the swing states. I am not convinced yet that Donald Trump can win a general election. In a way, I say Nikki Haley might be an underdog in the primary, but would be a favorite in the general, much more than maybe a Donald Trump could be, just because of the perception out there. We tend to live in conservative circles because of who we are and what we're all about. We have friends that are conservatives. We live, the three of us, in a conservative area. But there are a lot of people that we don't ever bump into that just say, Trump is a non-starter for me. The thing is, we don't know how many people like that are out there and how many people will say, Donald Trump, I cannot vote for him no matter what.
Have you seen the polls?
That's the dice. I just talked about the polls.
Yeah.
Do you believe every poll is accurate?
Well, no, but there's a lot of polls. I mean, there's a lot of polls out there. Look at Real Clear Politics. So
I get it.
You know, I mean, I think
but
it's fair to say that
they're not 2-1 either. Those poll results are not 2-1 either. They are very thin margins.
You're talking about against Biden.
Yes.
Yeah. Obviously, the race now is between Trump and his Republican counterparts for the nomination, and it's David versus Goliath here, and I don't know what changes that.
Yep.
And you know, so your question is fair to say, well, how many people out there just are never Trump? You know, I think there's got to be a growing number of people. I see 22% of blacks that are now for Donald Trump. That's enormous. And if that's real, he wins in a landslide. That's unlike anything any Republican's ever seen. Hispanic vote is through the roof. So I think there's a lot more people saying, I'm never Biden, than are saying never Trump.
I think you're getting a lot of never Bidens. I think you're getting a lot of folks that did vote for Biden when, boy, this was a huge mistake, and never Biden. It's.
Hey, here's an email from Becky. She says, why should the nomination go to Trump, who doesn't show up? Showing up
doesn't need to.
Showing up should be a prerequisite, no?
No, it doesn't need to be a prerequisite. No.
That's what Becky says.
Let's go back to the phones. Tracy, where are you calling from?
Hello, I'm calling from Missouri.
Welcome to the Great White North, Missouri. What did you think tonight?
Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get the broadcast, but I found you on social media, and I'm so glad.
Oh, we are too.
I did.
Thank you.
Well, give us your take. What do you think of the nominees? Who do you think's going to? We pretty much know it's Trump. If it's not Trump, who is it for you?
Okay, it would be Trump, and if it's not Trump, I would have to say DeSantis.
How do you think he did tonight? Because let's be honest, the first three debates, he did not do too well. He doesn't have, like we've said, he doesn't have that charisma on the camera. I think the guy is good at what he does. I definitely think he can do the job. And if I'm with you, if it's not Trump, it's DeSantis. But with all that said, do you think tonight he stepped his game up pretty good?
Well, like I said, unfortunately, I wasn't able to see it from the very beginning. I only got like the last 20 minutes, but I don't go on personality. If the person knows what he's doing legally, if he's for the country and he doesn't want to usher us more quickly than we're already going into this world government, I'm for him. I don't care if he doesn't have charisma, as long as he knows what he's doing behind the scenes. And he's for this country like he's for his state.
You're a smart woman. Absolutely.
I'm curious what you consider the most important issue.
I was just going to ask that.
Of course you were.
Well, the most important issue for me would be, like, for example, Nikki Haley saying that we should do the eliminate the anonymous thing as far as the internet is concerned. So to me, that's working for the international crew. So my most important issue would be getting people back to work. Trump opened up the Granite City Steel and the petroleum thing over in Illinois. The first thing Biden did was came and shut it down. So if you care about taxes so much or you care about money so much, why would you eliminate businesses and shut down the oil and do everything that you've done? Trump is about business and making money. I'm not all about the money, but that's what we need to live in this world. And he's not about going along with the international crew that's running the thing.
Tracy, I've got a question for you. What city do you live in, ma'am, if you don't mind me asking?
St. Louis.
St. Louis, okay. So you've got a city where there's a lot of different people from a lot of different backgrounds. President Trump, as Scott had mentioned a minute ago, is starting to win more hearts and minds in the black community, the Latino community, people who came over from Serbia, Croatia. Do you sense that's happening also in St. Louis?
I believe so. I believe people are finally waking up and not tripping off of personality or what the so-called pundits say, what he means. You know, you don't say, the person says the sky is blue. You don't turn around and say that he meant that the sky is green. So yes, I think there's a lot of people from different nationalities, walks of life or whatever that see that they had a good thing.
Yeah, there
and
are
when
some.
You say anything is better, and when you say anything is better than Trump, all you said was, the devil is better than Trump, and that's what you got.
Yes,
Tracy. Thanks.
You're awesome.
Thanks for listening to our special internet show tonight. Appreciate it. God bless you down there in St. Louis. Let me, before I get back to the phone, so we're going to go talk to Luther in Texas.
Oh, my.
I do have an open line, 701-271-1100. Scott Hennen along with Steve Hallstrom. I'm Jay Thomas, and we're taking your calls and just having fun and hanging out. You know, what we're learning here is, you know, you're just hearing from everyday Americans, people from across America, and it's just pure common sense. And what we're hearing is, we're all fed up. We've had it. We've completely had it. We can't do this anymore.
You remember the flags that were flying when Trump ran the first time around? Trump 2016, no more bleep.
Yep.
No more BS.
Yep.
I think people are going to dig out those flags, whether it's the right year or not again, and put those bad boys up, because this garbage that we're hearing right now about boys can be girls, girls can be boys, and we can't say no, we can't be mean to people coming through the southern border, and we have to let everybody vote, whether you're documented or not. I think people are just realizing that, wait a minute, I was okay with a little bit of BS, but we've gone full bore, and this has gone over the top. And I think there are people, like Tracy just said, that say, you know what, it wasn't all that bad when Donald Trump was in office.
It wasn't. Back to the phones. Let's head down to Texas and talk to Luther. Luther, welcome to the show. And where in Texas are you, Luther?
I live right outside of Beaumont, Texas.
Beaumont.
Which is about 98 miles east of Houston.
Okay, I was Houston. I got a buddy down there. His name's John Hovis. He owns the Hemi Hideout just outside of Houston. A great guy.
Awesome.
All right. What did you think, Texas?
Well, I tell you what, I've just changed my vote, and I'm going with Tracy. I tell you what.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
No kidding. She was great.
Yeah, she's awesome. Anyway, I tell you, when several years ago, when Trump first ran for office, I did not support Trump. I thought he was a Democrat. He was a playboy. He was a guy that would do what he had to do to get the job or to do this or do that. But he won the primary. Mm-hmm. And for about 2 weeks, I was kind of depressed. But you know what? The guy started coming out and saying the right things. Is he audacious? Yeah, he is. But you know what? I think this is the guy. He doesn't look for another person's opinion. He doesn't look for another person's approval. He knows what he believes in, the free enterprise system. And sometimes we need somebody that's just going to stand up, who's going to be audacious and just do the right thing. And I think Trump is the man that'll do that. Even though I like DeSantis, I like him. And I'll tell you, I forgot the guy's name. I don't even know if I can pronounce it. What? Vic.
Oh, Vivek.
Yeah.
Vivek Ramaswamy.
Yeah. Right. I like his tenaciousness. He was ready to go into battle. He said the right things. I didn't hear him mess up on anything. And I believe the guy's saying what he needs. Now, Haley, on the other hand, the reason why she had no answer because she's guilty. Mm-hmm. That's why she didn't have an answer.
I'm not a big fan of Nikki. I've never been a fan of hers. And when you go back to Vivek, I thought he went a little over the top tonight. I think he's just doing his last hurrah. But that is one smart man. I mean, he is a smart dude. And I do think, Luther, there's a place in politics for him down the road. I really believe there is.
No question about it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we want him on.
I wouldn't be surprised if Trump didn't include him somehow.
Maybe so. Luther, I have a question for you, and this is an honest question because I'm trying to figure it out myself. Let's say Donald Trump gets the nomination, which looks very likely at this point. The kind of attack ads that are going to come at Donald Trump from every angle are you're going to be able to, swing a dead cat and hit 20 of them, right? Like the old saying goes. But what happens to the moderates and the independents who are going to decide this election? It's always decided by the mushy middle. What happens when they get these ads bombarding them all the time saying Trump is a criminal, Trump is a criminal, Trump is a criminal? Do you think Donald Trump can still get elected in that environment?
Well, I'm going to give you two answers. I know that's not what you want, but if I was just a normal guy out there who just listened to the news occasionally, it might be hard for him. But I tell you, there is more and more people throughout this United States. They have listened to the lies, and they have listened to the lies, and they know that what's on Trump's heart comes out his mouth. I think Trump is going to win.
I do too.
Well, I'm voting for Tracy, but Luther might be the vice president now because I like that.
Well, there's got to be
I'll go for that.
There's got to be a place in the cabinet for both Luther and Tracy. Hey, listen, Luther, we appreciate you listening to this special program we did on YouTube and the debate tonight. And God bless y'all in Texas. I love you down there, but let me tell you something. I'll never go back down there again and film in April or May because it is so unbelievably hot and humid down there in Houston.
And I'm going to have to send Trump my bill for saying this. Just a joke, guys. Just a joke.
Luther, appreciate it. Thank you. 701-271-1100. By the way, you all are watching this and must be listening to this on our AM 1100, The Flag YouTube channel.
Yep.
The best thing you can do is you can subscribe to it. Hit that bell. You get notifications because you never know when us three may get together one evening and go, you know what the hell? Let's go do an hour-long show on our YouTube channel.
Yeah, we end up here doing stuff every once in a while when DeSantis and Newsom got together for a debate. We've done this now 3 different times. And
we have a blast.
No matter where you're at, just make sure you've got friends in Fargo who would love to have you be part of the program whenever we jump on.
And a shameless plug, again, we all are from radio stations. We're all in the same family here in Fargo, North Dakota. Steve and Scott have shows on AM 1100, The Flag. Make sure you listen to them when you get a chance. Scott's on from 8:30 to 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. Steve's on from 2 to 4, or from 4 to 6 Central Standard Time. I'm on 970 WDAY Radio. I'm on from 2 to 5 Monday through Friday. Check in with us once in a while on your smart speaker or get our station apps. And by the way, if you're clicking and liking stuff on Facebook or on YouTube, make sure you like my Rides with Jay Thomas YouTube page. That's for my TV show. It's a show about cars and trucks. Anything that's got an engine and cool. And by the way, Luther, down there in Texas, we are on in Texas throughout the state of Texas. But make sure you do the same thing. Subscribe to that and hit that bell and like it. And you'll get notifications when something new comes up. All right, guys, ready to hit more of America?
Let's do it.
Let's go out to the East Coast. And Darren in Maryland's been waiting a while. Hey, Darren, welcome to the program.
Welcome, guys. Thank you. I started off tonight listening to the debate on a liberal far-left program, and it was just so hard. So I scrolled through YouTube and found you guys, and I'm greatly excited.
Yeah, we are too. Glad you found us, buddy.
Yeah, likewise. So I'm an African-American, obviously. I'm right outside of D.C., so I'm a unicorn. I'm a unicorn.
God bless you, my friend. God bless you.
Right. Thanksgiving and holidays are not easy in my house. But I say all that to say that my son-in-law both are conservative, and we're probably the only ones in our family. But what we're starting to see is a growing trend, obviously for some conservatism, but more for people who are supporting Trump. So I say this, although I think DeSantis is he's governed Florida greatly. I mean, during the pandemic, that's where we went on vacation.
Yep. So did the wife and I.
Vivek has, exactly. So I think Vivek has a future, but I think Trump is still our likely best candidate right now because the polls once said, whether you believe in polls or not. But also, if you think about it, again, I get to see it from the minority, I mean great minority side, from a black conservative standpoint, where I'm starting to see some of my friends swayed and start to question Biden. And they're not going to give support to Nikki Haley. They're not going to give it to Ron DeSantis because they don't feel the strength. Our community, I don't know how to say it, but plainly, we're fighters naturally. So we tend to go with the fighters like a Trump or even a Vivek. We don't like the Mitch McConnells and people like that. They're too soft. So,
I have a question for you related to the people you're talking to that are having these kind of thoughts. Were they out of the camp of too many mean tweets and Donald Trump's too mean and Biden voters that now have said, hey, I want back what this country was like during Trump? What are the reasons for this support now, do you think?
Honestly, this is the funny thing. Trump is more relatable from the people I've spoken with because now they see he's being oppressed because in the black community they feel like what's happened is that they've been falsely accused of crimes, which has happened in some scenarios, right? So now he's more relatable to people who've been in prison falsely, who just feel like he's more relatable than most of these other folks. And that's why I say, I have a lot of Latin friends, I have a lot of black friends, obviously, and they're the ones that are like, hey, I'm switching over, man.
It's a fascinating conversation.
Yeah, Darren, thank you so much. It's great for us because we live in Fargo, North Dakota. We have a little bit of diversity here, but it's not.
Wow, had to get that blowing, didn't you, Darren?
Yeah,
it's better than listening to the liberal station, though, right?
Yeah,
come on.
Well, there you go on that. But
you betcha.
So tell me why you think people are starting to catch on to that now. Like, what is the thing that's happened that's made people say, you know what? I maybe can get behind Trump because he's always been sort of picked on, if you will, to kind of use your line of thinking there. But why is it now you think people are starting to make that change?
Well, I mean, it doesn't hurt that Biden is doing a terrible job. I mean, that's just the bottom line. He's a failure, and I think people are seeing that. I think they're seeing the hypocrisy. He went on a show that the black community looks at a lot is this guy, Charlamagne the God. And he made the audacious
Breakfast Club.
Statement. Absolutely.
Yep.
He made the audacious statement that you're not black if you don't vote for me. So, that starts to resonate over time. It didn't catch on right away, but eventually people starting to say, well, hold up. Then you start looking at his connection to Robert Byrd and stuff like that. People are starting to wake up.
Well, you talk about people waking up, Darren. You saw what happened in Chicago. The black community there, they're ready to completely raise all hell and rip apart the DNC and said, hey, look, you lied to us. You've treated us like garbage. You promised that you would take care of us. You'd look out for our community, and you are now treating us like crap, and we are going to make your life a miserable, miserable existence. And I love that.
I did too. I sent that clip out to a few of my friends recently, so I know exactly what you're talking about. So yes,
Darren, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you out there in Maryland, and hang in there, brother. Hang in there.
Thanks so much.
You got it. 9:46. Let's go. Henry's in Oregon. You're coming up. We got to grab John. John in Minnesota. Poor John has been waiting so long. Biden has been out of office a while now. That's how long he's been on hold.
Wow. John calling from the People's Republic of Minnesota.
Yeah. How's your Emperor Walz doing over there, John?
Yeah, Walz hanging in there better than I think some of us expected he would.
Yeah.
But you can't underestimate the foolishness of Minnesota voters, especially the Metro folks. They don't seem to be able to recognize their own self-interest.
Where are you at in Minnesota, John?
Well, I'm north of the Metro, north of the Twin Cities, kind of like an exurb, Forest Lake.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Let's go Rangers.
Yeah, exactly. You're kind of...
yeah, you got it, man. Nice.
Well, I'm a Hibbing, Minnesota boy, so born and raised on the Iron Range.
We're all three Minnesota boys. I grew up in Mora.
Montevideo for me.
Yeah, so we're Gophers at heart in a lot of ways.
It's killing us to see what's happening to our state.
I wouldn't go that far on the Gopher thing, but anyway.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Let's have it. Lay it on us. What'd you think tonight?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's hard to try to hold on to something like Minnesota because you got kind of this managerial class that seems to be derelict in its duty, and Walz is a perfect example of that. But that, I think, I look at Haley and DeSantis, and they kind of remind me of like managerial class kind of types. And I think Christie seemed like just a regular politician, which I think doesn't come off well in this environment. Mm-hmm. Vivek, I think people are skeptical of him. I think they think he might be kind of a politician, but he at least drops the truth bombs.
Oh, he does.
He gets some mileage out of that because people are, what I can't figure out is where's the breaking point. And I got a little list here, and if you wouldn't mind humoring me,
go ahead.
But I look at the country, and I see runaway debt, blown out deficits. They're talking about a CBDC, a digital currency. We got inflation, easy money, bailouts for the bad, lockdowns, heavy-handed vax, WEF, globalism, climate mandates, killing the cars, wokeism spreading in K-12. You got Epstein, Seth Rich, censorship by government in the Twitter files, Russia, Russia, Russia. You got January 6th and turning patriots into terrorists. Where is the country?
It's gone.
It's a great list, and I think we could all sit here and extend it by tenfold going down the list. It's absolutely right, which is...
it just feels like we're under attack.
What is that?
You listen to the tone of these manager types, and DeSantis is a good manager. I mean, if I had to put a manager type in charge, it would be someone like DeSantis. But my God, the people have to go for somebody that's willing to throw some bombs, rhetorically speaking.
A disruptor.
I mean, the scope of the problems, who's going for the easy answers? The Republican Party has no vision. It's all kind of, well, neither party has a vision.
No, they don't.
And you look at these lists of problems. I mean, where is the leadership?
Let me ask you this, John.
People haven't pushed off a little harder.
John, can Trump bring it all back?
Well, it all depends on what he does with it. I mean, that the government hasn't closed the borders. You got this low-hanging fruit out there. He could come in on day one, close the borders, and that's probably the only thing he has to achieve to be seen as a success.
Yeah, about right.
Sorry, state.
Yeah.
We're in.
So let me throw this to the conversation for all of you guys. You said, and I think you speak for a lot of people, like DeSantis might be a good managerial class guy. I am a DeSantis backer. I'm a supporter, have been from the very beginning. And I try not to pound the table for him a whole lot because people kind of know where I stand. But look at what DeSantis has done in Florida. He's more than just kind of one of these ruling class elites. He and his Republican legislature cleaned up those corrupt voter rolls in Florida. For the first time now, Republican registrations are passing Democrat registrations in that state, which is a very, very diverse state. They put in a voter fraud committee to prosecute anybody that commits fraud. When there's a disaster, a hurricane or whatever, he's been there with those people fighting to get aid to everybody. When COVID hit, he never mandated masks or vaccines. He fired his attorney general because that guy was too woke. He left the how to run your city up to the individual people, government closest to the people. He did it when it came to school closings, business closings. He said that's for your community to figure out. And Florida became one of the freest states in the country. People move there in droves. And because of it, they are number one in just about every economic statistic there is. So you tell me what more you want from a candidate to think that he could not go into Washington, D.C. and do a good job. I'm not saying Trump is a loser. Trump should never get a consider. I'm not saying that. But when I hear people criticize DeSantis, they try to come up with something about, well, I don't like him or he's not loyal to Trump. But you cannot like DeSantis, that's fine. But you cannot say that he can't get the job done because he doesn't have a record of getting it done, because he does.
By the way, I think you've just made the argument for a Trump-DeSantis ticket.
John, appreciate the phone call. Thank you for listening. You're kind of on the edge of rock and cow country, which we love.
12-year plan, Trump DeSantis.
Let's go to, where are we going?
Who says no, Scotty? Who says no?
Who says no what?
to that plan.
Yeah, I mean, why wouldn't you?
John made a good point. I mean, John laid out what we're all experiencing. We're all going the same thing. How can this border be this? How can the economy be this? How can our government be weaponized against us? Like to say nobody's doing a damn thing about it.
And by the way, that's why I think Trump can win, because number one, people see the contrast between how Biden's run the show versus Trump, and they might have not liked Donald Trump for whatever reason. You know, I mean, he was too bully. He was, whatever.
They don't care about that anymore.
But combine that with
they want their life back.
Combine that with what our other guest said. I think it was Darren, who talked about the persecution of Donald Trump and how some people identify with that and say, yeah, that's what they do to me. That's what they've done to us.
In the minority community.
Right. And you've got two powerful combinations and a 1-2 punch on how Trump wins again.
Let's go to Oregon. Henry's been waiting a while. Henry, welcome to the program. What'd you think tonight?
Thank you very much. Here is an out-of-the-box recommendation for discussion and consideration. If Biden would agree to it, and if the two ladies would agree to it, what if the vice presidential running mate was either Liz Cheney or Nikki Haley? This would solve the age problem. It might help the across-the-aisle party problem. The policy issues between them are resolvable, and it causes us to have an alternative to Trump, who is a threat to the Constitution and a threat to the competition. A third-party candidacy to accomplish the same thing doesn't work. So I would suggest that although I'm not in any way against Kamala Harris, I don't think she's a vote-getter, and I don't think she has the confidence in an election for the public to say this is our leader, whereas Nikki or Liz Cheney might. They have the experience, they have the relationships in Washington, and they aren't subject to all the political restrictions that parties try to put on people in government.
Here's my theory. Here's my response rather on your theory.
Okay.
There's a better chance that we're all going to be, lotto winners by the end of the night than that'll ever happen. Yeah. Because that would be Joe Biden saying, okay, I'm barely going to make it across the finish line here. I might even not make it through the second term, but if I do, then the vice president is a Republican. There's no way Joe Biden goes anywhere near that idea. Well, yeah, it's not a bad idea, especially
it's not
Nikki
a bad
Haley.
Idea, yeah.
I think Liz Cheney would be a bad idea. But
Gentlemen, I am suggesting exactly that.
Well,
it's challenging. I get it. But we are not making progress in our elections. It isn't working.
Well, we know that Washington's not working. That's great.
Instead of us expressing opinions here, let's let this opinion get circulated to those high-level people in a way I can't, and see what they say.
They'll say nothing. Henry, appreciate the phone call and you listen, and that idea is going nowhere. That will never happen. Well, the Democratic Party would never allow it. It's just not going to happen.
It would require Biden to say things are going the wrong direction.
Exactly.
Right? And what you're talking about would be warm fuzzies to a lot of people. Oh, finally, we got
the two parties are
bipartisanship, and this will be great. But
not going to happen.
The Democrats want to destroy this country. I'm sorry. Their policies are proof positive they want to destroy this country. So they're not about to align with anybody that's on the Republican side that could be president and would have a different opinion and wouldn't want to destroy the country in the way they are in everything, from our economy to the border to what's happening with the world's on fire right now. The world's on fire. We're under attack, for crying out loud. We got 100+ attacks on our bases in Iraq and Syria right now that we're ignoring, and we decide to respond to 1 out of 25. It's bad news right now. Bad news. So I don't think that happens.
All right, to Ohio, Patty, thanks for hanging on. You're up on the program. How you doing, Patty?
I'm doing good.
All right, your takeaway tonight. What'd you think, Patty? And what do you got to say?
This is my fourth debate, and I think there was a caller earlier that said that these debates are set up so that Trump wins, and it makes perfect sense to me. They're a circus. We're getting nothing out of them, and you all think that Trump is our savior.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really shocked, and to say that this Trump is the best that we have.
Who do you want? Who would you like, Patty? Is there anybody out there that you think could get this job done?
That's what I was going to ask. Who? But if not Trump, who?
Actually, the last caller said Cheney, and honestly, I happen to like Cheney and where her vision, but you all hate Christie, but Christie was the only one who gave intelligent answers tonight. He was on track. He stuck to the thing. Haley did too. And you don't like Haley, but the other, nobody else answered the questions. Nobody else gave us, what are you going to do? What is your plan for America? They all just repeated what they've done in the past. Nobody's telling us how you're going to do it.
And I think I can speak for Scott and Steve. We agree with you on we're watching these debates and we're getting nothing out of them. They are a 3-ring circus. There's never any control on these debates. I mean, once in a while you'll get a little nugget here. I will agree with you on that part of it. But the rest of it, look, I'm a Trump guy because I saw what Trump did. I was able to enjoy what Trump did when he was president. Our country was rolling good. Was the guy ugly at times? Yeah, but sometimes you got to do that. But at the end of the day, we didn't have every country out there wanting to beat the hell out of each other. We didn't have a gazillion terrorists coming across the border. We didn't have the chaos in the streets that we have right now. Russia would not be in the Ukraine. China wouldn't be going after Taiwan. And Hamas would have never went after Israel. We want to have that. And we want to have all the anti-Semitism there or whatever that we have now. None of that would happen because these countries and these leaders knew that they weren't to screw around. We meant business. We look so weak right now as a country, and not just overseas, but right here within our own border. Steve, go ahead.
Charlie Kirk's take on a tweet here. Make no mistake, the real ballot box power in this country still belongs to the plumbers, the carpenters, the welders, the HVAC techs, and the muscular class.
The people in the middle.
Everyday Americans still have common sense, and they will shock the world 1 year from now.
All right, Patty, Steve's going to talk to you.
Patty, so thanks for your honesty, sister. I love it when people call and say, I see it differently than you, so thanks for that. Here's what I would agree with you with. I think that any one of the people on that stage has something to offer here in this conversation. I think what you're hearing us when we talk about Nikki Haley, when we talk about Chris Christie, I think we're just suspicious of parts of their past where they have not aligned with true conservative principles. And I will give you that I thought Chris Christie, when he starts talking, he has a commanding presence. And he is that kind of statesman, the guy who's been there, kind of a calming voice. I like all of that. But when Chris Christie says it's up to a parent if they want to lop off their kids' genitals, you're going to lose 90% of people on the right. And Nikki Haley, there have been times in the past when her stances have been more moderate, especially on the social issues, than people want to see on the conservative side. So, look, do they all have something to offer? Certainly they do. But when you say that Chris Christie was one of the people that answered the questions, all Chris Christie did today was either rip Ron DeSantis or Donald Trump. Very seldom did he actually talk about how he's going to make the country better. So I disagree with you on that part, but I like your perspective in saying I see it a little bit differently.
Patty, appreciate it. Look, we got calls. We got Idaho, we got Michigan, we got New Mexico. Guys, we got to wrap this thing up.
Let's take these that are waiting, and we'll call
take those that are waiting.
Sure,
okay,
you
folks that are waiting, we're going to grab you. Then we're gonna wrap it up because all of us have been here since about 6, 7.
Well, we're used to it, but I worry for the staff a little bit. It's a lot of work they've been doing tonight. We appreciate them very much.
You guys don't want to hang out with the people tonight? Okay,
I'd love to sit here and hang out, but we got to let those guys go in mission control.
I suppose.
Let's go down to New Mexico. Beautiful down there. Rebecca, welcome to the program.
Hey, been enjoying listening to you guys here in the land of entrapment.
That's awesome.
The funny thing is New Mexico constantly gets ignored during all the tyranny, and we've got the most tyrannical little tiny tyrant running our state of any place in the entire country.
Oh, and that's saying something, bro. That's saying something. So
I've lost track of the New Mexico's governor since what's his face, the ambassador was there, who's passed away now. But who's your governor? Who are you talking about?
Michelle Lujan Grisham.
Wow. Oh, Grisham, yeah.
Is that right? I don't know much about
her. We call her the Grish.
You're a mean one, Mrs. Grish. Isn't she? I believe she's the sister of Gavin Newsom, right? No, I'm kidding. She's not.
Well, didn't she try to suspend the Second Amendment down there not too long ago? And
oh heck yeah.
Yeah, that was her.
I've got. I actually am involved in a lot of patriot groups in this state, and I've even got a radio show of my own on a local Albuquerque station.
Awesome.
And she came out with this unconstitutional mandate trying to suspend our Second Amendment rights, and we all showed up in mass in a park in Albuquerque armed and to defy her order. And I think that a lot of this tyranny going on in the country, the only way to beat it is to simply not acknowledge the unconstitutional mandates.
No,
not acknowledge it don't comply with them.
Exactly.
Yeah, right on.
That one guy that was on there a little bit earlier that talked to you, I cannot believe that he would even suggest Liz Cheney.
Liz, yeah, there's
that on the committee that was trying to push for the imprisonment of a bunch of patriotic Americans in the D.C. gulags. And it's like, this never gets mentioned about these people that are being held without due process in these awful conditions. I'm actually good friends with one of them, Coy Griffin, which is he was in a county commissioner here in New Mexico. He was removed from office because he was at the January 6th protest.
Wow.
In D.C. by a judge, which is completely unconstitutional.
That is,
and nothing, and it just went away. It just went through, and nobody did anything about it.
I was thinking this though. Liz Cheney might be the perfect running mate for she's a Democrat, right? So
exactly.
She hates Trump, so she
let her run with Biden.
They thinks January 6th with an insurrection. So I think her and old Joe will line up pretty good.
You bring that up, Rebecca, and you're right. I mean, we had people burning down police precincts in Minneapolis, burning down Wendy's, burning our cities down.
Mostly peaceful.
And exactly. And they get a slap on the wrist, and we got people that showed up to a rally and they're still sitting in jail, rotting in some prison. And
so sick.
It is ridiculous.
Dan,
and I got some inside info from my friend Coy Griffin, which luckily did not get held in a D.C. gulag very long. I've been doing a little bit of study lately on Soviet Union and the gulags down there, which is where that whole idea originated from. And the things that they were doing in the Soviet Union are exactly the way we're doing them in the United States right now, with the only exception being they're not shooting people in the back of the head.
Not yet they are. Rebecca, appreciate it. Reprise. Glad to hear from you down the land of, what did you call it? Land of entrapment. That's it.
I got an email here from Dan in West Fargo. It says, hey, guys, so I am what you call an average guy, 44 years old, wife, 3 kids, 2 dogs. I have 2 car payments and a house payment. What are these candidates going to do here at home? I don't worry about issues overseas. I worry about issues at home. Why are we spending so much time over there on issues that are here that need to be fixed?
And I understand what he's saying, and I'm with him, but we're global. What happens overseas does have an effect, but I get what Dan is saying.
I think Dan's right in that this debate, and a lot of these debates, have not had nearly enough on the pocket.
Oh, that's what he's... Yeah, he's right on that, exactly. Okay, here's what we're going to do. One more call.
Okay.
One more call. And I'll say it again. You're watching us on the AM 1100 The Flag YouTube channel. Hit that button down there that says subscribe and click that bell. That way, when we just decide to get together, when one evening, we go, you know what? We're bored. Let's get together, and we're going to throw a show on. You'll get a notification that, oh, my God, those three knuckleheads up in Fargo are back on doing a show.
Great idea.
And the show, by the way, is called The Program on YouTube. One more. Let's go out to Idaho. Hey, Van, welcome to the program.
Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you for the show you're putting on. It's been a pleasure listening to you.
Thank you.
Quite a panel there and quite a conversation. I really love how you're giving your callers so much time. A couple things for you right off the bat. The suggestion of Trump and DeSantis, it's a wonderful idea, but I believe the Constitution does not allow the president and vice president candidates to be from the same state. They're both Florida residents.
That's actually not true.
It's not true. It's not true. Scott explained. You're right. It is not true.
It's an internet thing that says that, but if you dig into the actual facts of the Constitution, that's not the case.
Now, people don't usually do it because they want to have an appeal in more than one state, but it's not a law.
I don't think people think of Donald Trump from Florida. I don't think that's
true too.
He's got to transcend the typical politics of where you're from.
I'm glad to hear that. That's good news. I mean, that's the best news I've heard all night, if that's the case. So I got a suggestion here that I think you guys will like. I came up with this idea many months ago, and everybody here in East Idaho that I presented this to has been enthusiastic, to say the least. I mean, coming out of their chairs enthusiastic. And we're looking at a reality where the nature of what's happening to Trump in this political environment could create a problem for him as a candidate. And if they create a block that is going to end his candidacy, or if he were just to realize that it's a war that he's just not going to win, a DeSantis-Trump team, but in a different way, if Trump would agree to it, if I could get the ear of both of those men, I would suggest to them that DeSantis as the candidate, as the Republican nominee, with the promise to make Trump his swamp czar.
Okay.
And swamp czar to me would mean fully encompassing virtually everything that has to do with every agency that answers to Washington, D.C. So we're talking about Border Patrol. We're talking about everything you can think of that would be accountable to D.C. And Donald Trump would be able to focus on cleaning up the swamp and not have to worry about any of the other duties that a president has to deal with that would distract him from cleaning up the swamp and helping out the nation. DeSantis could focus on presidential duties. Trump could throw all of his support behind DeSantis. It would be a ticket that couldn't lose.
So
Trump would be.
Sorry to interrupt you, but I think what you're saying, if I understand correctly, is that you're suggesting that Donald Trump go to work for Ron DeSantis.
Yep, that's what he's suggesting.
Exactly.
Has Donald Trump ever worked for anybody in his life?
No, I think you're kind of twisting it just a bit. I mean, you got the idea right, but what I'm saying is Donald Trump would get to go to work for America to clean up the swamp. DeSantis as the president and Trump as a czar, which could be a new cabinet position, swamp czar, and just give him free reign to do what he needs to do to clean out the problems in Washington.
Yeah, we get you. We understand what you're saying. We understand what you're saying, but it'll never happen. Donald Trump is not going to be subservient to anybody else, no matter what you say. Well, you can kind of go do your own thing. He's not going to be a lieutenant to anybody. He just isn't.
I will say this to his idea, though. Trump as president, DeSantis as vice president, you could virtually do the same thing he's talking about. Trump could be the disruptor and finish cleaning up the swamp. And meanwhile, Ron DeSantis is planning for the next 12 years and executing more duties than a typical VP would.
That technically gives DeSantis, like you said, 12 years.
Yeah.
And I would say this, I even though the two have gone after each other, they haven't gone scorched earth as far as I can tell. And so is there a chance that they could work together someday? Maybe. Not in the way maybe that the original idea came up, but could DeSantis be a VP? I think that's possible. I don't think there's a deep hatred there. The worst thing that Trump says about DeSantis is he calls him a weird nickname that doesn't really.
Well, he said he's disloyal. That he should have waited.
Yeah,
his turn,
but he can get past that.
Yeah, I agree. Trump could get past a lot of stuff. It rolls off his back. You know, he'll bury the hatchet. Sure.
May I say something?
Yep.
Okay. I totally get everything you guys are saying to me. I'm hearing it all, but I want you to go back to what I initiated this with, and that is if a scenario arises that it makes it impossible for Trump to be the candidate, I want Trump. Don't get me wrong. I want Trump, and I want to see DeSantis for 8 years after Trump. But I'm saying that if there's a scenario where Trump cannot be the candidate, that for sure DeSantis could win, and DeSantis would win by getting the Trump support behind him, going into a position where he has the kind of power and authority that I'm describing.
Okay, all right. I at least was misunderstanding the way you laid it out. So what you're saying, okay. So now I can get on board with what you're saying. You're like, look, there's just no way Trump cannot be the candidate. He cannot be the president of the United States. You get DeSantis in there. Hell, we're making czars all the time. DeSantis says, as he's running for the candidate, Trump is going to be part of my cabinet. He is going to be America's czar, and he's going to take care of the swamp. So I get what you're saying now. Van, I hate to hang up on you, appreciate it, but we got to get rolling. I know, Steve, you want to jump in on that before we go home.
I just, I'm trying to think what scenario still exists where Donald Trump is disqualified from the position, and I can't find any, you guys. The court cases, he could get convicted, but with appeal, those things continue to live on. There's no way that you can get through these court cases and then at least 2 appeals to something like that before the election happens. The only way it doesn't happen is if Donald Trump gets hit by a bus.
Steve, don't ever say no way in this crazy world we live in right now. And this government that has been so weaponized. I get what you're saying,
but
I'm
taking into account that everything goes wrong against him. But even in the worst case scenario,
I guess
I don't see how it doesn't happen. But your point is fair.
I think what Van is saying at the end of the day, take a drink. At the end of the day, let's get Trump and DeSantis together. That's the dream ticket. I think that's what Van is saying. And I'm with him on. I always said that too. I said, hey, look, I like DeSantis. I'm going Trump first. If Trump can't get the nominee, I'm with DeSantis. But boy, I would love to see DeSantis on that Trump ticket as a VP, because that gets DeSantis in there, and then that gets him a shot at 8 more years after this presidency, and he's got Trump to back him. I think that would be a fantastic ticket.
I'd take it.
All right, guys, it has been fun.
Let me leave you with this.
Okay.
We have an email from a listener, Craig. Thank you for listening, Craig. And Craig says, best after debate coverage ever. Steve, Jay, and Scott, hands down, this has been the best post-debate coverage I've ever watched. Great job.
Oh, wow.
Well, if you look at how many subscribers the Flag YouTube page has gone up to since we started.
We still have 1,300 people watching the live stream.
We do. Listen,
the event's been done for an hour.
Again, this was fun. We didn't think it would go this far. We thought we'd get on after the debate, BS a little bit, talk a little bit, give our thoughts, and the phones went crazy. And again, you know what? Subscribe to AM 1100 The Flag, WZFG's YouTube channel. So hit the subscribe, hit that bell. That's very important, because when you hit the bell, and make sure you like it too. When you hit that bell, anytime something comes up on the YouTube page, you're going to know about it. You're going to get a notification, because you never know when we may decide one night, hey, guys, should we get together and do a quick hour-long YouTube show again? And you'll know, because you'll get the bell.
The notification.
Hey, those knuckleheads in the Great White North are at it again.
They haven't frozen solid quite yet.
Exactly.
Hey, let me say one more thing before we finish up. I think sometimes it's easy for us on the conservative side to feel like one of our callers said earlier, it just feels like everything's working against us, like the ruling class has got all the strings pulled. Nights like tonight encourage me, because we heard from people from all over the country. We had people tuning in from all over the globe, and we are all motivated by the same thing, and that is faith, freedom, free enterprise, and making this country work again and again. And yes, sometimes it looks dark, but remember, when you feel like you're the only one, like Darren out in D.C.
Darren was fantastic. They all were fantastic.
They all were. But that's why this country, and people say, well, America's going to turn into a Venezuela again. No, it's not, because no other country has what we have, and that is the fabric of patriotism in this country that will not give up and that will not give in. And
we'll
we're
say, armed.
Yeah, you pry it from my cold, dead hands,
buddy.
Right? And so because of that, this is why we can have a conversation like this and people from all over tune in, because we're all about the same stuff. So we're all part of the same family. We're all a little detached from time to time, but nights like this help remind me why I'm so excited about the future of this country. Our best days are yet to come because of all of you that are tuning in and doing this with us.
And I would say that that's been the genesis of this radio station from the day it went on the air. It's been providing a place for the common sense folks, salt of the earth, God-fearing, Constitution revering, faith, family, freedom, salt of the earth people. We love you. This audience is fantastic. And the next year, is it going to be any fun, guys, or what? We've got a great year coming.
This is just starting, baby. This is just starting. Scott Hennen. Make sure you follow him on his Facebook page. Steve Hallstrom, follow him on his Facebook page. I'm Jay Thomas. Follow me on my Facebook page. Listen to our radio shows anywhere in the country, and you'll know which stations we're on if you go to our Facebook pages. But definitely subscribe and like and hit that bell on this YouTube channel, and you'll know next time we hit the airwaves.
Us three have it pretty easy. We've got a great team that have made everything possible tonight, from Jeff Baden, our
ops manager,
ops czar, and Gabe Thomas, his right hand, and Addison behind the controls, and
Michael's in there.
The great Michael
taking care of all the video.
Michael Downs doing a great job on video and everything else. We had Justin, Justin from Lakes, fill in on the What's on Your Mind show every now and then out there as well, and a lot of great folks. So it was a lot of fun tonight, and thanks Crystal Lopez too from our events team.
Yep, she handles everything, man. Great job, America. It was absolutely a blast getting to know you this evening, and we will definitely do this again. Sleep well, knowing that you still live in the greatest country in the world. May not feel like that sometimes, but this is still America, damn it, and we're proud of it. Thanks, guys.
God bless. Thanks for watching and listening.
Yeah, buddy.